Thank you, everyone, for being here today. We have a really nice turnout and a lot of important issues on our agenda. It is the regular City Council meeting of August 12th. I hope everyone's had a great weekend and is staying safe and fire conscious out there. We will ask Mike, can you call the roll, please?
Councillor Benedetti?
Here.
Councillor Doyle?
Here.
Councillor Guth?
Here.
Councillor Rose?
Here.
Councilor Rose will be attending online, which I think is wonderful. He's away at a wedding, but taking time out from the festivities to share his council duties and take care of business.
And Mayor Richards?
Here, thank you. We have a scheduled public appearance today, which is very exciting, which is why half or more of our police force is here in the room. We are swearing in a new police officer, which is fantastic to have the full complement of people out there protecting our health and safety and the community. So would Francisco Morales come forward? I think we stand right here by these microphones. Okay. So you stand there.
All right.
And they're on. Okay. I haven't done this before, so you won't be nervous and I won't be nervous.
All right.
Okay?
Okay.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Francisco Morales,
I, Francisco Morales,
do solemnly affirm that I will support
do solemnly affirm that I will support
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Colorado,
the Constitution of the State of Colorado,
and the ordinances of the City of Aspen,
and the ordinances of the City of Aspen,
and that I will faithfully perform the duties
and that I will faithfully perform the duties
of a police officer of the City of Aspen,
of a police officer of the City of Aspen,
and that I will be mindful
and that I will be mindful
of the mission, values, and philosophy
of the mission, values, and philosophy
of the Aspen Police Department
of the Aspen Police Department
in providing
in providing
respectful, thoughtful, professional services
respectful, thoughtful, and professional services
to any person seeking assistance from me.
to any person seeking assistance from me.
Congratulations, you are a police officer. Our community.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. And the next item of business will be citizen comments and petitions. Are there citizens here who would like to address City Council this evening? Is there anyone online who would like to address Council this evening? Okay, Mike, come on up and just your name for the record.
Okay, Mike Maple, 1250 Mountain View Drive.
Thank you, Mike.
I am here to comment on an item on the agenda that is not scheduled for a public hearing, and that is the declaration of a stage 2 water shortage and resulting responses to that.
Okay.
I have no doubt that we're in a drought, and a stage 2 declaration may or may not be appropriate. My problem with your initiatives is that it is a lot of form over substance. Somebody must have a professor must say that if you have a shortage of something, that if you raise the price, you will change the demand. I don't really believe that's the case. As a property owner, all this does is run up my bills, and I do everything I can to reduce my water consumption. This stage 2 declaration doesn't include any actions by the city. There was a stage 1 declaration, and the stage 1 declaration, the city, almost certainly the largest user of water in the summer months in this area, were directed to do something. What did they do? Did they really reduce their use of water? In my neighborhood, I see irrigation ditches that, as recently as this week, are literally full to overflowing, flooding down the street. And so when I see on the one hand, the city, which I'm pretty sure manages these ditches, is wasting water, and then they want to come to the citizens and say, we want to increase your water bill by 50 or 100%, it's pretty offensive. This memorandum, has financial implications. Well, the financial implications to the city of this Stage 2 declaration is an increase in revenue. There's not an increase in costs. Utilities by a government should be delivered, in my opinion, on some sort of cost basis. So if you have an increase in cost, by all means, pass it along to me. But a reduction or drought conditions, I suspect do not increase the cost of the city delivering water to me. So therefore, there shouldn't be a, whatever it is, a 50% or a 75% increase in the services that you're providing to me. So my charge to you is to be responsible for managing this utility and delivering the services to the taxpayer taxpayers of Aspen, not in jacking up revenue. And the city of Aspen, with significant parks and irrigation, is undoubtedly the largest user of raw water, as well as, perhaps treated water. And so the city should be stepping forward and saying, we, the city, are going to reduce our water consumption by 25% or whatever. And when you impose these restrictions, you should look back on what happened. You imposed a Stage 1 water restriction, you jacked up rates by 25 and 50% in hopes of reducing water consumption by 10%. Was it successful or not? My guess is no.
Mike, I think you're close to the 3 minutes.
Good enough.
I'm sorry, I forgot to put the timer on.
Yeah. No.
I appreciate your comments, and we have asked Steve Hunter from the Utilities Department to address what Stage 2 water restrictions mean for our community. I can understand what you're saying about immediate and short-term charges. I will take a look at that, but I think it's really important for our whole community to know that we depend on surface flows, and currently our rivers are flowing maybe at 25 or 30% of what they normally are at this time of year. And as a city, we know we need to build a reservoir, and those sort of locations are being looked at. It will be a very expensive proposition, but having only a 3 to 5 day water supply in a community that will be facing ever-increasing drought on the Colorado Plateau, and knowing that if we ever really had a wildfire to put out, those water supplies within the city would be depleted fairly quickly. So there's a lot of other longer-term planning than what is just happening in 2025. But we'll hear from Steve if you stick around, and he's going to explain to the public the what and whys of our Stage 2.
I have no question that he can explain the what and whys. It's the response that I have an objection to.
And I think those are good questions to ask. What is the city doing as well to reduce its consumption?
Good enough. Secondarily, I see you have yet another demolition allotment settlement, 2 more, on the agenda for tonight. It continues to be incredibly clear to me that
I understand your issues on that, but we are beyond the 3 minute. We are well beyond the 3 minute.
You interrupted me, so can I finish?
I did not interrupt you. I made comments at the end of your comments that I didn't even have the 3 minute, but you only have 3 minutes. Please, go ahead, Mike. Tell us about the demo permits again.
Once again, you have 2 demolition allotment settlements before you. This is yet another demonstration of an incredibly ineffective program. Once again, form over substance, and we need to get rid of this program. This staff has provided 0 evidence that this is an effective program, and in my opinion, it is very clear that the unintended consequences of this program of creating stress for property owners, expense for property owners, and ultimately the acceleration likely the acceleration of demolition is absolutely contrary to the intent of this legislation, and you need to get rid of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you being here. Do we have other public comments? Francis, just identify yourself for the record.
Francis Stuckins. I've been living in Aspen about 38 years, and I work over at Carl's Wine Cellar. Thank you, Mayor Richards, for attending Mountain Fair, and somebody brought me a slice of peach pie.
Thank you.
Outstanding. I was there for KDNK. I've been reading the paper, Aspen Daily, and there's some, again, outstanding commentary from Steve Skinner and, the maze that we have going on for the entrance of Aspen. I know we're working tight on some solutions. I got a police escort all the way from from west to East Hallam, right around rush hour. And, they're patrolling to make sure that people aren't cheating back there in the West End and going more than 2 blocks in their motorized vehicles. That was pretty cool. I was pretty happy with that. I'm not the only one, I'm sure. Very cool. I have a suggestion, though. From east to west Hallam, the north and south crosswalk should have be just a 2-way stop. The 4-way stop, a lot of people will look around, and even if they see a bike coming, they'll cross the road going north to south, again, trying to get out of town. At Carl's, we got a visit from the Colorado Department of Revenue, the Specialized Business Group Liquor and Tobacco. They're telling us that the narcs or, the underage agents are going to come in and try to get us to sell them booze, but we're very well aware of that, and we have a good relationship with them. Alfredo Martinez, the criminal investigator, also said, and I commend you, Mayor Richards, and members of City Council for checking out City Market and finding out that their square footage doesn't allow them to have so much space for beer and wine sales. So they're reduced down to end caps now, which really helps our 4 independent liquor stores that have been part of Aspen for years. I'm really kind of proud to be working there. All right, more than kind of. The clock at Hopkins and Monarch is still about 15 minutes off. They're at the next to Meat and Cheese in that area. I don't know if there's a little crank you can turn or anything. Still looking forward to what's going to happen at the Armory, hopefully a community meeting space, not necessarily an Aspen tea pad for marijuana consumption, but I think that would be a lot of fun and bring a lot of tax revenue. Speaking of Yogi's, which is another restaurant here.
I'll give you a few extra because Mike had a few extra. Go ahead.
Okay. And Yogi's is really empty again, and the guy's moving out, who was the chef who was running the place. I'd like to see something in there and work with the city about getting a kind of a locals place in there, which would be really nice, and I have the experience and the wherewithal.
Well, I think that is a goal that we all share, but we are in kind of legal disputes with the leasing right now, and
Oh,
so
dear.
I can't really discuss it.
Okay, I'll say no more. The last thing is Paul Anderson's 3-parter on the White River National Forest was very interesting and accurate, I thought, and
Okay,
that's all.
thank you very much. Yeah, Paul Anderson's a great writer. We appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here.
You're welcome, thanks.
Is anybody online raising their hand to make comments? No? Is there anyone else in the audience here who would like to make comments? No. Okay, thank you. We will move on our agenda. Let's see, the next item is the special orders of the day, the council members and mayor comments. We will later have board reports, but does, want to start with you, Bill? Is that okay?
Sure. Thank you. I just wanted to do sort of an impromptu check-in on our current council's priority projects and goals. We set 3 projects as our priority projects: Armory Hall, entrance to Aspen, and Lumberyard. And I wanted to thank staff for what I think is pretty meaningful progress on all three of those fronts so far in a relatively new council. And I'm excited about that. I know we're going to have a conversation about Armory Hall, have our second reading on that tonight, which has been a passion of mine, and I'm excited that we are at this point a little over 2 years into my term, and can't wait to see this thing come to fruition. So thank you on that piece. On the council goals, I think this is sort of deeper work, and there's more to come. But as a reminder to everyone, we came to conclusion that we should work on early childhood education, programmatic enhancement and optimization, resource and infrastructure resilience, including fire safety, and traffic flow and congestion relief. Those are sort of our three primary goals aside from the big projects, and a lot more to come on those, I hope, in the near future. I'm excited to see what staff brings to us. I want to make a big impact in those areas, so that's all I had to say. Is I've been thinking about these things and excited to be working on them.
Well, thank you for saying that. I think we all share the same, sense of momentum. Feels good. Christine? Okay. John?
Yeah, since we've all been breathing forest fire smoke on and off this week, I thought I'd talk a little bit about fire and water. These are just some headlines from Sunday's paper. Aspen Times, Picken County in trouble until the snow falls. Extreme conditions, wildfire risk have become the new normal. Picken County seeing the 8th driest season on record in 131 years this January to June, according to NOAA. Because of this, wildfire fuels are exceptionally prone to burn. Jake Anderson, the fire chief for Aspen Fire Protection District, confirmed the extreme drought in Pitkin and Gunnison counties has led to stress on the landscape, causing plants to go into dormancy early and leaves to change colors as early as last month. I've started to see them myself. Another headline, drought worsens in Colorado as hot, dry, windy weather fuels wildfire behavior and risk on the western slope. Colorado State climatologist says the weather has been hot and the monsoon season weak, with little signs of relief anytime soon. Average temperatures in Colorado have warmed by 2.3 degrees Fahrenheit from 1980 to 2022, according to a report the Colorado Water Conservation Board published last year. In northwest Colorado, summer precipitation has decreased 20% compared to the period between 1951 and 2000. We've seen warming in Colorado across all seasons, Schumacher said, but where it has been especially acute the last few decades has been in the summers. The summer is usually the hottest, but that's also where we're seeing the largest warming trends. Also on Sunday, the Elk and Lee fires over by Meeker combined surpassed 103 acres. New evacuation orders were issued in Rio Blanco and Garfield counties. Those counties are 1 county away and 2 counties away. The Saturday morning update on the fires noted 1,245 people are working the fire. 13 aircraft, 62 engines, 21 hand crews, and 13 pieces of heavy equipment are also involved. I would note that right now, Pitkin County, Delta County, Mesa County, Garfield, Rio Blanco, and Moffett are all in 100% extreme drought conditions right now, and Gunnison and Routt County are both about 50% extreme and 50% severe. Another headline from Aspen Public Radio, the Southwest is rapidly losing groundwater due to overpumping and climate change, study finds. Researchers from Arizona State University used 2 decades of NASA satellite data to track changes in the amount of stored freshwater in aquifers, lakes, rivers, glaciers, and ice sheets around the globe. They found the Southwest U.S., including Arizona, New Mexico, Nevada, Colorado, Utah, and California, have lost massive amounts of groundwater. That's due to overpumping by cities and farmers and persistent drought. The lower Colorado River Basin alone has lost groundwater equal to the full capacity of Lake Mead, which is 21 million acre-feet of water, according to the study published in the journal Science Advances. I'd like to note that the Lee Fire, as of today, is now the 5th largest in Colorado history, after the Cameron Peak Fire, the East Troublesome Fire, and the Pine Gulch Fire, which all occurred in 2020, only 4 years ago, and the Hayman Fire, which was in 2002, which was also this century. I'd note that the Lake Christine Fire, just down by Basalt, was in 2018. That wasn't that long ago. burned 12,500 acres and cost $17.25 million to put out. The Grizzly Creek Fire was also in the big fire year of 2020 that closed Glenwood Canyon and I-70 for 13 days, burned 32,600 acres, cost $25.5 million to put out. And lastly, a study in ProPublica says staggering water loss is driven by mining of aquifers, threatens global water supplies. A new study warns that Earth's most essential resource is quickly disappearing, signaling what its authors describe as a, quote, critical emerging threat to humanity, unquote. More than anything, Earth is being slowly dehydrated by the unmitigated mining of groundwater, which underlies vast proportions of every continent. So much water is being pumped and displaced from the continent that it has become a leading driver of sea level rise, overtaking glacial melting. Most of the water lost from drying regions is from groundwater pumping, which ultimately shifts fresh water from aquifers in the continents into the oceans. There's one foolproof sign that groundwater is disappearing. The earth above it collapses as the ground compresses like a drying sponge. A recent study in the journal Nature Cities found that 28 U.S. cities are sinking, New York, Houston, and Denver among them, threatening havoc for everything from building safety to transit. In California's Central Valley, long known for being a breadbasket of our nation, the ground surface is nearly 30 vertical feet lower than it was in the first part of the 20th century when large-scale industrial farming began in the Central Valley. That's all about water and fire for now, but I do also want to note that CORE, which I'm still part of, is having a Green Expo on Friday, September 12th at the Limelight from 1 to 5 p.m. There's going to be a regional climate panel, introduction to induction cooking, and a speech from Chris Miller, who is Auden Schindler's replacement at the ski company. I hope everybody can attend. Thanks.
Very good. Thank you, John. Coming back to me, going around here, the first thing I'd like to say is that when we get to agenda amendments, I am going to suggest to council that we take a motion to move the action items ahead of the public hearings and have them directly after the consent calendar. This is to be fair to the school district, who is here for discussion of the questions and also has a lot of school activities going on at this exact same time. And so we are also going to take the other action items at the same time to be respectful to those people, but we will do that action in a moment. In terms of mayor's comments, I guess the big one, I'd like to make sure that you all know, and I'm inviting you to come to the community picnic, which is going to be Sunday, August 17th from 1 to 3 p.m. at Pepka Park for the annual community picnic. This year, Slow Grooving Barbecue and the Roaring Fork Food Truck will provide free food to the first 750 people to get there, so don't come late. And Buffalo Joe will perform live acoustic bluegrass music during the event. There will be ice cream from the Dreamery Company. And it's an excellent opportunity to come together with your neighbors and celebrate our community. We hope to see you there. That's Sunday, August 17th, 1 to 3 p.m. And Pete, is it true they're going to have some sort of bucket lift to be able to take a community picture for the Aspen Historical Society?
There will be a community picture. I think it's scheduled for roughly 2:45 that afternoon.
Okay.
I don't know if there's a bucket or not, but I'm sure we'll have to
They
make
get them up there
accommodations.
real high somehow to take that picture. So everyone come and make your mark and be there to be filmed. The second is that there is a commercial challenge grant. The City of Aspen's Utility Department is kicking off a new program for Aspen's commercial businesses, the Commercial Water Efficiency Challenge. Thanks to a grant from the Colorado Water Conservation Board, participating businesses can receive rebates of up to $7,500 to help replace high water use appliances with efficiency ones. Join us at the stakeholder meeting, which will be August 13th from 12 to 1:30 here at City Hall in the Pearl Pass Conference Room. So a real good chance to upgrade your fixtures and to upgrade your high water use appliance with efficiency ones. And finally, I would just like to announce that The Aspen Public Art is offering community-free activity kits for exploring the city's 4 public art sites this summer. And those art sites include here at City Hall, where we have Colorado noted artists hanging for their display, and then to look at the art that goes throughout some of the public parks. And so you can pick those supplies up, just talk to the people over at the Red Brick Center and enjoy the summer of public art. And those are my manager comments for today. Other than wishing everyone a very safe and happy holiday going forward. We are hitting the end of summer, and you know, you almost can feel a little bit of the crowds backing off unless there's a special event. People are going back to school and their families are having to go back with them. And, but the fire danger is real, and it's something that we're seeing these fires move a mile in 30 minutes. You know, this is sort of thing that we have to take very seriously. So I will now go to agenda amendments, and I will make a motion and ask if anyone wants to second it, to move the action items to the immediately following the consent calendar issues. I make that motion?
I'll second.
All right, I'm going to give it to Christine. She had her finger on the dial. Mike, would you call the roll, please, on that motion?
Counselor Benedetti?
Yes.
Counselor Doyle?
Yes.
Counselor Guth?
Yes.
Counselor Rose?
Yes.
Mayor Richards?
Yes. And excuse me, Sam Rose, from afar, do you have any board member comments that you'd like to make? I missed
Not
those.
tonight, thank you.
Okay, thank you, and we'll come back around. Just yell at me if I forget to look at the screen down there. We now move on to city manager's comments.
Just a friendly reminder that the county moved to stage 2 fire restrictions as well this past Friday. That still has implications for no fireworks, no smoking in the outdoors area where there's combustible fuels. But it also has greater restrictions on things like no open fires in any outdoor space, including private land, no off-road vehicle travel, things of that nature. So please be aware of that stage 2 fire restrictions. If you need more information, you can go to pitkinemergency.org for that information.
Thank you very much for that, Pete. And now we will come back to board reports. And I know the RAFTA meeting is coming up this Thursday. Bill, do you have any board report items from prior?
I think I missed the last one, but I will be there Thursday, tomorrow.
Okay.
Or Thursday.
I'll talk to you afterwards, see if you want carpool. Christine, no board reports. John?
I already commented on my core thing, which isn't really council related.
Okay, great, thank you. I will just make notion that, note that I attended the Club 20 Policy Committee meetings in Steamboat Springs a weekend or so ago, since our last regular meeting. And it was very interesting. They were able to have a brief interview time by Zoom with one of the undersecretaries for the USDA, Department of Agriculture, and Forest Service is under the Department of Agriculture. It was a little bit where they're telling us about the plans to go from more regional offices down to 4 offices in the West, where we'll have less people with less real connection on the ground for the Forest Service. It was also mentioned that President Trump's 2026 budget requests are to slash the Forest Service funding another 65%. And so I asked if that department, which oversees that agency, can support a request like that and still perform their functions. And they said, yes, they fully support reducing the Forest Service a further 65%. And that also includes the national parks. So I think that's an issue we're all going to have to lobby on to figure out how to really take care of our public lands in the future. And it's particularly important for the Forest Service to have the personnel to plan fire mitigation in advance of a fire and to do that planning and those controlled burns when conditions allow. So that's my only real report for today. We will now move on to the consent calendar. These items may be taken together in a single motion. We have the West End Drainage Infrastructure Design Contract. This is to continue to deal with flooding and old aging infrastructure in our systems. And let's see, what are the next ones? We have a resolution, number 109, for urban runoff management plan, update the contract with Wright Water Engineers. We have a contract for the Truscott Playground at the affordable housing, replacement of older and kind of, by today's standards, less safe. And we also have resolution number 112, series of 2025, moving to the Stage 2 water shortage declaration. I would like to have a motion to approve the consent calendar, and then I would call Steve Hunter up to explain to all of us and the public what does Stage 2 mean. So is there?
I also have a couple thoughts on 108, 109 that I'd like to share.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and share the comments first, and
Sure.
then we'll go for, see if
Thanks.
there's a motion.
They're somewhat related, these two, but on 108, I want to make sure that the alleyways in the West End are considered in addition to the streets. Most of the language in the memo refers to the streets, so I want to make sure that the alleyways are captured. I don't know who I should be directing these comments to specifically, but, you know, we've had a lot of issues with.
They're coming up for you to hear.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Anyhow, just want to make sure that this does in fact contemplate the alleyways. As you know, we've had a lot of alley issues in the West End, and have asked that the alleys be contemplated for improvements. So I want to make sure that this work also includes that.
Yep, so I'm Haley Rodell, Deputy City Engineer. We can definitely incorporate that into the design process.
Great, thank you. And then
Although there is a separate project totally focused on the alleys that we are doing in addition.
Wonderful. As long as this is not being totally siloed and the alleys are being contemplated.
They're integrated,
that's all I can
yeah.
ask. Yeah. And then on 109, I'd ask, I get, my issue here is that often our stormwater containment rules can go a little bit too far and be impractical and illogical on small private property projects. And so I ask you, as we're opening up this sort of box, to contemplate how we can apply some logic and reason and flexibility in some of those smaller situations. I'm not referring to a, you know, full block hotel development by any means, but, you know, a larger renovation that maybe crosses the 40% threshold and does require some on-site stormwater work. I'd like to make sure that we have flexibility to be reasonable, logical, practical. So that's my request there.
Bill, is that something that perhaps you want council to review the code to be able, I mean,
I think it's so-
individually, we can't really direct our staff, myself included, can't individually say, do it this way or do it that way. But
Yeah.
if we look at the code and you can make some suggestions of where you think it's overly burdensome or that we can add the flexibility into the code.
Thank you for that question, and I do understand I can't give unilateral direction. I think the code is so technical that none of us would be able to interpret it really and understand the sort of specific implications that would come up on these stormwater retention issues. But I guess I would ask the four of you if you share my sentiment that we should ask staff to sort of apply that reasonableness and practicalness on some of these smaller projects. And if we can share that sentiment cohesively, I think staff can incorporate that.
You know, I can't weigh in without having heard back and maybe seen some case studies, because I don't know that there have been unreasonable demands or why various demands were made. I just simply, you know, I think we can take it up as a topic. I think it's good, and I'm glad you raised it, but I just can't weigh in without a little more background. I don't know if others feel differently, but
I don't have a whole lot of experience with stormwater management either, so I would need some background information.
So perhaps, can I suggest that we maybe schedule a brief work session topic where we can talk about some of the challenges that we've had. And, I don't think that this is staff applying these unreasonable demands on people, to be clear. I think that that's the code that you're faced with or have been faced with in the past, that sometimes, if you took a step back, you would say, I know this is sort of a lot for a small project that's not going to have a major impact on the stormwater containment in the city as a whole, and maybe you'd like to have some flexibility in those scenarios.
Okay. We'll take a look. It's not going to take top priority for the work schedules that we have, but we have note of it.
Perfect, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Did you have other comments?
Just on 112,
Okay.
which I know you wanted to discuss, sort of give
Yeah, well-
Steve an opportunity to talk about first. And
Yeah,
then
first.
thank you, ladies.
Sam, do you have any comments on the consent calendar?
No, I do not. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else have comments on that? Well, then let's have Steve Hunter come up and we'll talk about Resolution 112, the Stage 2 water shortage declaration. And of course, Stage 1 was declared a while ago, but that is an entirely voluntary program. It's really just to remind people to start trying to cut back.
Yes, thanks, Madam Mayor, City Council members, Steve Hunter, Utility Resource Manager. I have Aaron Laughlin, Utilities Director with me, and Cole Langford, Head of our Utilities Billing Department.
Thank you all for being here.
And we're ready to answer any questions. I can give you, I think Councilman Doyle did a heck of a job doing part of my job by reciting some of the
reason.
very accurate drought and wildfire restrictions. One thing I would throw in there, which was kind of interesting, today I talked to some of my colleagues. I spent 12 years with the U.S. Forest Service prior to coming to the city. And they agree that wildfire season this year is not over till the snow flies. So, and we've got a solid 2 months plus left before that can happen. So that, and then I talked to Aaron Walter, who's at the National Weather Service in Grand Junction, colleague of mine. And I said, Aaron, can you give me an idea how many red flag warnings we've had to date? Because we've had a lot, but I just wanted to know the number. And she sent me back an email. Of course, a half hour after that, we had our 35th red flag for the forecast area, 20th for the Roaring Fork Valley. Out of the last 20 years, out of the forecast, the average is 8 a year. So we're still, we're 150% above in beginning of August. So I love giving you guys the good news that I always come to do. But with that, we're ready to answer any questions. I think John definitely hit on
Why?
why with the fires are very accurate. Russ Schumacher, who John also mentioned, is the state climatologist. And Russ also, the climate signature this year, the weather signature, with the above average temperatures, below average precipitation, and these dry thunderstorms, zero monsoon activity on the west, are very reminiscent of 2020, which was the grizzly, but it was also the worst wildfire season in Colorado history. And a lot of those fires didn't start till late. I think East Troublesome started in September. So a lot of those start late. We got a lot of wildfire season. And with that good news, I guess we can, I think we want to talk a little about what we've done since Stage 2. Mr.
Or since Stage 1?
Or since Stage 1, yeah.
If you could tell us that, and then also what does Stage 2 mean for residents or citizens or businesses as they go about their business?
Sure. And we have the Drought Mitigation and Response Plan, which allows us, the Drought Response Committee, which is about 20 members of staff, that we've met numerous times to discuss options. So we have a variety of tools that we can use, but this time we really wanted to focus on not throwing the kitchen sink at our residences, our visitors, our businesses, but kind of focusing on some attainable things we think we could get real water conservation measures out of. So simplify the process and what could be quickly implemented. And staff does, I hate drought. In Stage 1, Stage 2, and God forbid, Stage 3, it increases our workload dramatically, trying to enforce this and educate people and whatnot. So as the memo and the resolution state, there's going to be an every other day watering schedule based upon your address, which is fairly straightforward. It's also been partially adopted by the Roaring Fork Conservancy. We have been working to get a valley-wide messaging, because it's hard for a contractor or landscaper coming up who does work one day in Rifle, one day in Carbondale, one day in Aspen, to know what's going on in each municipality. So that's that, and then it's limited washing of sidewalks, parking area, tennis courts, patios, and it's really for the blatant, we're not gonna go out and harass somebody who's washing their car. We know where the big issue, the big ticket item is outdoor irrigation. And we're focused on treated water here, not raw water. Raw water is dictated by the state of Colorado State Engineer's Office, and we don't have jurisdiction over that except for our own water rights. And we do work to cut back and conserve on that. And so those are really it. There's no refilling of swimming pools with water furnished by the city, and that's mainly focused on single-family residential pools. Big hotels that do it for health and safety reasons or top off or whatever they need to do is kind of an exception, and it's a case by case. But we're really looking, the outdoor irrigation is the big use.
Thank you.
And I think, good evening, this is Erin Laughlin, Utilities Director. I'd add to what Steve said and note that in the Stage 2 efforts, we're going to, as a department, focus on targeted outreach to our top 10% of users, since they are, the highest impact to the system's overall production demand, and really target those high users to try and seek reductions in that category.
Okay, thank you. Do any other council members have any direct questions or anything?
Some comments and thoughts. Go ahead, Christine.
Does the city limit, as an entity, does the city limit its water use?
That's a great question. And so after Stage 1 drought restrictions were enacted, the watering restrictions that Steve just described were voluntary for the community, but it was required for city facilities. And so we did have a meeting, and I can say that we've had a number of departments and facility accounts meet and exceed the 10% target reductions from a Stage 1. I know the Parks Department has expended pretty immense staff time and effort, and I think continues to do so, to go around and review all irrigation schedules and controls to, meet those Stage 1 restrictions. And I think as we enter Stage 2, we're going to reconvene and see what we can do as a city to, get the next 15 to 25% reduction that we're looking for on top of Stage 1.
Great, thanks.
Nice. Walk and talk.
Bill?
Yeah, no questions. I'm glad Mike sort of spoke tonight because I've been struggling with the same concept in my head over the last few days. I'm not sure behavior really is going to be modified at all by penalizing people financially on this. I think particularly as it relates to your top 10% of water users, I think that there's just sort of a wealth factor there that increased water rates are not going to modify behavior. And so the other 90% are getting penalized, perhaps less so, but penalized sort of alongside those 10% users and to probably fairly limited effect. So I guess I would request, if we're able to defer this, I would request that we defer it and come back with a plan that does not include those financial penalties, but we think will modify behavior and will achieve the results that you're looking for. I'm interested in the results. I'm not interested in sort of the virtue signaling and sort of token behavior that we're trying to feel good about. I want to see, if we need to reduce water consumption, let's meaningfully reduce water consumption.
Yeah. No, those are great points, and it's not an easy thing to do. But we're doing our best. But I think Cole has some data on how many people are actually in those higher tiers. It's the majority of the folks that use water, residents in the city, are not in those higher tiers. These are the highest water users. So we were trying to say, hey, you need, find what other options that, we're willing to look at other options for sure. But this is one tool in the toolbox for the highest of water users.
Yeah, I get that, but I don't have a huge house, and I have a decent backyard, but I'm definitely in tier 3 and plus in the summer all the time for a portion of my bill, and that that's going to get a lot more expensive. And I highly doubt I'm in the top 10% of users or anywhere close to it. So sure. I've seen this in past years when we've gone up to Stage 2 water restrictions, and I've felt it. And to be totally honest, it hasn't modified, like, I don't even know how to change my sprinkler schedule, so I couldn't do it if I wanted to, but there's got to be some better way to effectuate this change.
John?
Yeah, I agree with Bill on his point made about certain economic individuals. Doesn't really bother them. It's been proven in Southern California when they had water restrictions down there. There were some people who just didn't care and just paid the bill. But calling it virtue signaling, I think, is a misnomer. The definition of virtue is behavior showing high moral standards, and I think that's not really what's going on here. We're dealing with a water shortage, and we're just trying to get people to understand that we have a limited amount of water, and that's what we're trying to do here. I don't think we're trying to virtue signal.
Okay.
And I would, just one other thing to bring up, we're walking the talk at the city. We really are. In fact, this week, just so you all know, as council members, we're most likely shutting down Maroon Creek Hydroelectric Facility. The average flows on that creek are, for this time of year, about 80 CFS. Today, they're 30. So we'll shut it down to meet minimum in-stream flows that we have an agreement with CWCB on. So, we're right there in there, and that's a big financial impact to the city. So I think there's more to be done. Councilman Guth, I agree with that. And by all means, if you have some great ideas, please call me. But we're doing our best, but we walk the walk. I don't think this is, and this year, I think we're really trying. None of us want to go into stage 1. None of us want to go into stage 2. But we also know that we have zero storage, essentially, and that we're a run of the river, and we had, we're all watching the snowpack since the first flake in October, and it really dropped off mid-March, and it's been horrible since.
Yeah. To be clear, I'm not disputing the fact that we have drought conditions. I'm not saying that we shouldn't do a stage 2 water restriction, stage 2 drought declaration, whatever the right term is for it. I'm saying that the actions that we take and the consequences of not complying with it should be real and meaningful somehow to people that don't comply with it. I don't want to have a situation where we can't fight a fire because there's no water coming out of the fire hydrant. I get it. I just don't think that increasing the prices on people's bills is going to effectuate that. That's my point. So you talked about outreach. That helps. I used to live in Las Vegas after college. You get tickets if you're watering your lawn during the middle of the day there. So I don't know if we want to go to that direction, but what can we do that's actually going to deliver the results that we need as a community right now? That's what I'm asking of you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, those are great points. And in the memo, we did call out, we do have the ability to, after a warning, to impose fines. So that is something we're trying to work on.
Yeah, no, thank you. I think those are great comments, and we could pull that item from the larger motion, which we haven't made yet, so that if you don't feel comfortable voting for it as it is, I can understand that. And we can work on improving all the different outreaches and ways in which we reach people. I kind of maybe am on the other side of that coin where price increases are a disincentive to me for water use or for other things. And so, there is always a point at which, to me, in my mind, cajoling, begging, asking people to do something gets you to a certain point. And then you have to say, well, what is the real disincentive that goes with the incentives? And I think it would be important to have some sort of real newspaper ads about this going forward now that we're making the declaration. And then, if possible, a phone number that people can call for information so they know if they're following their restrictions appropriately. But let's try to get the word out, and not just that we've gone to stage 2, but why. But a little bit of the same sort of facts that we've been hearing here at this meeting. And hopefully we all get through it. Okay. So that's a very good one. I appreciate your time on that. And I will ask, is there a motion to approve, I'm sorry, I have so many pages here, The consent calendar item, Resolution 108, the West End Drainage, Resolution 109, the Urban Runoff Management, and Resolution 110, the contract for Truscott Playground. And then we'll take the last one separately.
Yes, seconded. Or so moved, rather.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, John is seconded. Mike, will you call the roll, please?
Counselor Benedetti?
Yes.
Counselor Doyle?
Yes.
Counselor Guth?
Yes.
Counselor Rose?
Yes.
Mayor Richards?
Yes, thank you. I would now accept a second motion to approve Resolution 112, Series of 2025, Stage 2 Water Shortage Declaration.
So moved. Second.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded. Mike, will you call the roll, please?
Can I just make an
Oh, yeah,
additional
please.
comment on here?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
I'm not going to support this, but again, not because I'm not supportive of and not understanding of the water declaration, but I'd like you, and if others consider this approach, I'd like you to come back with a modified approach where we don't have blanket financial penalties, but we have really targeted, specific methods for enacting these reductions that we need to see. And you guys are the experts on how to do that. Happy to sort of share some ideas offline, but I just, that seems punitive for no good reason. I don't think that alone, or that primarily, will effectuate the results that we're looking for.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second, so Mike, will you call the roll, please?
Counselor Benedetti?
Yes.
Counselor Doyle?
Yes.
Counselor Guth?
No.
Counselor Rose?
Yes.
Mayor Richards?
Yes. Thank you very much. The motions have passed. We will now move into our action items.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks all.
Thank you.
We have 4 action items in front of us. The first resolution is a series of 2025 for the bond question for bond authorization for the Lumberyard Affordable Housing Project. The next 2 are demolition allotment requests, and the third is the dedicated tax for the public education ballot question. So the first one, Pete, you're going to take that for us?
Yep, Chris Everson is absent for today. So the question before you is to adopt language for a debt issuance related to the affordable housing development out at the lumberyard. As the council is aware and as the memo states, the city's contribution is estimated at $250 million for that total project, which is currently penciled in around $500 million at this point. The majority of those resources will come from existing fund balance as well as some future revenues that will be anticipated over the next number of years, but also incorporated into that $250 million contribution from the city is the estimate of a $70 million debt obligation. So this is basically to allow the city to move this forward as quickly as possible for the community.
Thank you very much. This is an action item. There's no public hearing, but we'll take council comments.
Just a request, Pete, for the public's benefit, is it possible to put up the draft ballot language on the screen?
I don't have it, but I can probably get it there shortly if you'd like.
And,
Yep, I have to get the packet up real quick.
Thanks.
It's in the resolution.
a lot of whereases first
Yep, I'm
before
gonna
the
s-
actual question.
Would you like me to skip the whereases?
Yeah, I
which are
think you
quite
can
long?
skip that.
Okay.
I think what's key is sort of the
Perfect.
capital letters,
Yes.
section 4.
Share my screen.
And we have reviewed this language with our bond counsel attorneys for all Tabor compliance of how it's worded, so.
This one.
Thanks.
Absolutely.
So that's very good. Now our grassroots audience can see those as well. Are there any further questions or comments? No? Is there a motion to approve Resolution 113, Series of 2025, the ballot question for bond authorization for the Lumberyard Affordable Housing Project?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. Mike, would you call the roll, please?
Counselor Benedetti?
Yes.
Counselor Doyle?
Yes.
Counselor Guth?
Yes.
Counselor Rose?
Yes.
Mayor Richards?
Yes. Thank you. The item has passed. We will move on now to Resolution 114, Series of 2025, Demolition Allotment Request 665 Sneaky Lane, with a staff memo recommending approval. Let's see. Gideon, good to see you here. If you guys would like to introduce the item.
Sure.
I don't think that this is really in contention. It's just the question of, via our staff's recommendation of approval of where the allotment should come from.
Great. Thank you, Mayor and Council. For the record, Ben Anderson, Community Development Director. The two resolutions, 114 and 115, are nearly identical to each other as proposed. For 665 Sneaky Lane, Resolution 114, and 311 Midland, Resolution 115. Staff is recommending both be issued as 2026 regular allotments. I would like to make a correction from the memo. If both were allocated in that fashion, there would be 3 remaining allotments in 2026. The difference with 114 is, should council choose, there's an option on 114 to issue the 665 Sneaky Lane allotment as a 2027 longtime local allotment. That one qualifies under the provisions in the code for those purposes. So I kind of wanted to talk about them together because they're nearly identical, but I would like to note that Gideon Kaufman, representing the property owner at 665 Sneaky Lane, is here, should you desire any comment from Gideon, or if Gideon would like to make any comment. And then Chris Benden is here representing 311 Midland, if you have questions, or if Chris would like to comment, he is here and available as well. So we'll let council deliberate on this, but staff recommends passage of both Resolution 114 and 115 as proposed. However, again, on 114, should council choose, you could issue a longtime local from the 2027 allotment program. So with that, I'll leave it to council for discussion. Gideon and Chris, I'm sure, would be happy to talk with you.
Thank you. Why don't you?
Okay, I just have a few comments to make, just to help you with this process.
Thank you.
For the record, my name is Gideon Kaufman, and I am here on behalf of Carol Hall, who's the owner of 665 Sneaky Lane in Aspen, who's seeking a demolition allotment. Either of the options recommended by Ben work for us. That's up to you. You can either grant a long-term local allotment from 2027 or a 2026 demolition allotment. As I mentioned in my application, my client, Carol Hall, has owned this property since 1971 and has lived in the house since 1974, when her late husband built it. Her late husband was Pietro Danielli. Pietro was part of the 10th Mountain Division, came back to Aspen in the early 50s, was a ski instructor on Aspen Mountain until his death. Carol was a second-grade teacher in the Aspen Elementary School from 1961 to 1988. That woman had a lot of patience. These, I believe, are the exact type of people that the long-term local allotment was intended to help. Carol is in her 90s, in failing health. This is her main asset. She needs to go into assisted living, and this is how she's going to be able to do it. I hope that the council will follow the recommendation of Ben in the staff memo. I want to thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions. I also wanted to take this opportunity to thank Ben for working with us and assisting in this process, given Carol's health and issues and timing needs. So we're grateful to Ben for all of his help.
Thank you very much. This is an action item. There is no public hearing. We have our staff recommendation. Let me ask, is there a motion to approve Resolution 114, Series of 25, the demolition request for 665 Sneaky Lane, using one of the current allotments of 2026?
So moved.
Is,
An opportunity to ask a question
well,
at any point.
there will be, but is there a second?
Second.
Second. Bill? You-
Thanks. Gideon, I'm going to ask you and Chris the same question. Would your client be pursuing demolition on their property if it were not for this demolition allotment program at this time?
Yeah, my client's health dictates this. She's in her early 90s and has to move to assisted living. So that's the primary focus for her and why she's doing this at this time. In addition, the house is really run down and needs a lot of help that she cannot deal with.
Let me rephrase the question, perhaps, not to get a specific answer, but just to make sure that my point's coming across clearly. Would your client specifically be seeking to demolish her own house instead of just selling the house and letting the next person decide what to do with it if it weren't for the demolition allotment program at this point in time?
She's not in a position to do it. So she needs the asset, this is her asset, to get into assisted living. So that's the motivation. If you're asking about the process, yes, it's a long process and a difficult process, especially for someone in their 90s, but the end result is that she has no option here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, you'll wait till the next one. We have a motion made and seconded. Mike, would you call the roll, please? Resolution 114.
Counselor Benedetti?
Yes.
Counselor Doyle?
Yes.
Counselor Guth?
Yes.
Counselor Rose?
Yes.
Mayor Richards?
Yes. Thank you very much. And Sam, just yell at me if you have anything to say that I haven't reached out to you for comments on. It's always.
Will do. Thank you.
Yeah, okay. We will now move on to Resolution 115, Series of 2025, the demolition. Thank you for coming,
very much.
Gideon. Allotment request for 311 Midland Avenue, represented by Chris over here, Chris Bendon. And it's a very similar item, and the recommendation is to use a 2026 allotment, Ben, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you very much. Do we have further discussion before we have a motion? Bill, would you want to, or ask Chris the same
I'd like
question?
to ask Chris the same question. Do you need me to repeat it, Chris? Or
Yeah, no,
do you got
I
the gist?
get the question. I get the question. So Chris Bendon on behalf of Greg Hemming, who owns 311 Midland. Greg's not in a position of wanting to tear down his own house, but he is in a position of needing to exit the property near term. He's been there not quite 35 years. He's 34 and change. He rented the place before actually purchasing it, so he's been on property for quite some time. Contemplated a redevelopment of the property in 18 or 19 before the demo program was actually in for permit. It got numbers back on bids that he just couldn't swallow, and so had to postpone the project, and then the demo allotment program came in. I think to the nature of your question, I get asked this question quite a bit. You can't put a property out into the marketplace if it does not have a demolition allotment. If it's a perfectly fine house and it meets all the sort of market standards, or you could picture remodeling it or whatever to meet market standards, then you're fine. The market will accept it and you'll get the full range of people coming through. If it's a property that is really going to be seen in the marketplace as a redevelopment property, you just can't go to market without a demolition allotment. I mean, no one will come by. And I know the impact on the actual value is substantial, but the bigger issue is that you just don't get any traction in the marketplace. You just kind of get ignored. So that's the bigger issue. It's not that Greg wants to tear down his house. It's that he's in a position of likely needing to go to market soon, and he just can't arrive at the marketplace without this demolition allotment.
So in other words, someone who has a property that is a redevelopment property, as you describe it, if they do not have a demolition allotment, their property is essentially worthless and unmarketable.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't want to get into a percentage of what the reduction is. I think the bigger issue is you just sort of get ignored.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Chris. Is there a motion to approve Resolution 115, Series of 2025, the demolition allotment request for 311 Midland Avenue using a 2026 allotment?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, I will ask Mike to call the roll, please.
Counselor Benedetti?
Yes.
Counselor Doyle?
Yes.
Counselor Guth?
Yes.
Counselor Rose?
Yes.
Mayor Richards?
Yes. Thank you very much, and Chris?
I wanted to say I'm happy to work with staff on this. It was a relatively smooth process. It did take some time to get here and fees and a little bit of anxiety, but it was pretty smooth process with staff. We certainly appreciate the recommendation of approval and very much appreciate getting bumped up on the agenda because I know you have a lot of things to talk about tonight.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. And we will now move to Resolution 116, the series of 2025, the dedicated tax for the public education ballot question. If you'd like to come up, and we will present as we've had a discussion just last night, so we do have some language. It will be on the screen, I believe.
Yes.
That is the ballot coming from the discussion last night.
Yes, and this follows the general direction provided by council last night informally. This includes a single tax question that combines both the extension of the existing 0.3% plus an additional 0.3% of new tax. Both are estimated at this time to do $4.75 million, so a total of $9.5 million for the combined tax. That's based on the aspect that right now we're trending up about 9% relative to the 2024 actual collections. And so giving a little bit of a cushion to basically allow for what could be possible under the tax and basically provide that to voters. In the event that it does exceed that, we would actually have to give back refunds for anything in excess of that under Tabor. So we try to keep the upper end as reasonable but as high as we can to make that known for the voters.
And then, were you able to get a few printouts of that
have
for
that
us?
here.
Yeah, it's just, we all
It's hard to
know
read on the screen.
it's dense language. Tabor requires all caps just to
Timing
make it more
issue with
difficult.
doing things the night before.
Here we go.
At me.
And I will read the question, if that's okay for people who can't read it from afar. Shall the city of Aspen taxes be increased $4.75 million in 2026 and by whatever amounts are generated annually thereafter by imposing an additional city sales tax at the rate of 0.30% effective January 1, 2026? And shall the city sales tax of 0.30% approved by voters in 2012 and extended by approval of the voters in 2016 and 2020, which existing tax is also expected to generate approximately $4.7 million in 26, for an aggregate of approximately $9.5 million continue to be collected on and after January 1st, 2026, with each such tax continuing through December 31, 2031, for the purpose of providing support for the Aspen School District Number 1, as described in the prior ballot questions, and shall the revenue from such tax and earnings therefore be collected, retained, and spent by the city as a voter-approved revenue change, notwithstanding any limits contained in Article 10 of the Section 20 of the Colorado Constitution or any other law. And so that is the legalese that the attorneys have given us, and it complies with Tabor.
Correct.
Right. Thank you. Do we have any comments since you've come here? I'm sorry we weren't moving as fast as I would have liked.
Theron Mulberry, Superintendent, for the record, but I just wanted to extend our heartfelt gratitude, one, for all the money that has been donated to the district from the city using this tax levy since 2012. It has literally transformed how we do business, and we're extremely grateful for having this opportunity to bring this to ballot in the form that we presented.
Thank you.
Max Merle, controller for the Aspen School District, and I would echo Theron's comments and just really want to thank the council for letting us put this in front of voters. This is a pivotal time for our schools, and I really hope the voters will see the need, and I just appreciate y'all giving us the opportunity to let our community voice their opinion on our schools.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And I'm Stacy Weiss, School Board Secretary. And I am also very grateful for the opportunity to be able to put this in front of the voters. Having been on the school board for the last 3 3/4 years, the community has very high expectations for education in Aspen. And we as a school board want very much to meet and exceed those expectations. And it's become more and more difficult in an environment where funding for education is being diminished at the state and at the federal levels. And we don't want any student to have less than we have had at this point going forward. We'd like to continue that level of excellence. So I'm very grateful for the opportunity. I know it is a complicated proposal for the voter. And we'll do our best to educate them on that, and hopefully they will be able to make their own decision on whether or not this is something they want to support.
Yeah. And as you know, we discussed this last night and talked about, should we break it into 2 questions so that each one might be a little more readable by their own sense, but the desire has been to go with a single question, and that's what we're happy to accommodate. I don't know that we need to don't go over this any further. If anyone else has comments they'd like to make on the question. One clarification, I understand Sam Rose is no longer working for the school district and therefore can vote on this question tonight. In the past, he's kind of been excluded from the conversations, but I think he's been watching them from afar.
Okay.
Okay. Bill.
Thanks. I just want to briefly as I can, reiterate what I said last night. I will be supporting this and look forward to the voters having an opportunity to decide this. But I have serious concerns about our tax rate going from 9.3% as it is today, our sales tax rate, to up to 10.35% if this is passed, if the fire district request is passed, and the early childhood education special district, I think is the right term for it, is passed. And then further requests coming into the future for additional taxes that would increase our sales tax rate beyond even that 10.35%, which I believe would be one of the highest sales tax rates in the state. Those are my concerns. I also have an expectation of the school district that they will do everything that they can to mitigate what I perceive to be an inequity between the boundaries of where the sales tax is collected and where the school district boundaries lie. So I'm not going to not support this because of it, but that is my expectation, my request of you.
That's well noted, Bill, and I think there's concerns are shared. This is through 2031, and so that is certainly some ample time to really work with the school district and others. And I mean, I want to be clear, we could, if there was an agreement reached sooner than 2031, I have certainly seen questions in the past as like, shall that be repealed and replaced with this? And so it could become something that is done sooner than that. There was originally a small city sales tax, a small county sales tax for RAFTA, and then they were both repealed with and implemented as a new measure for RAFTA. So there's history that if you want to move faster, and then we're all wishing the best for this election, but there is another one in another year, which will have even more turnout.
Yeah,
So,
can I just finish one
Please.
thought, please? I certainly concur with everything you said, Rachel, and I mentioned this also last night. I encourage the community to contemplate what an appropriate sales tax rate is, and our sales taxes don't need to be set in stone in perpetuity. In fact, I think most of them cannot be set in stone in perpetuity. So I think everyone should contemplate what our community's sort of priorities are and where we should balance the funding of various uses in our total sales tax rate.
thank you. All right.
I have a technicality question.
Good.
Both the references to the second and third reference to the amount say approximately before, but the first one does not. Is that?
That's actually intentional.
Okay.
The first one is the one that actually is going to be limited by Tabor, the increase. The existing tax, extending a sunset date is not subject to the Tabor restrictions if taxes were elevated beyond its estimate.
Okay, great, thanks.
In addition to that, just for Councilmember Benedetti's information, Tabor did not require that we put in the amount the existing tax would generate. I think at the work session last night, there was an interest by this council to be transparent with voters as to how much money not only the new tax would generate, but the extension would generate. And so that's why we put in that language, and we did use approximate in that case because it's not dictated by Tabor that we have to include that amount.
So for some reason, sales tax does not reach this level next year. Are we tied to this amount?
No, it'll be whatever actual collections are.
Yeah, that's what, so if it's less, it's less, but it doesn't ratchet down permanently to less. And if it exceeds, it greatly exceeds, they can keep every bit of it. Okay, and this will go through the Aspen Education Fund, which is a nonprofit, which is assisting the schools in the area. So
Would clarify that it's the Aspen Public Education Fund, not to be confused with the Aspen Education Foundation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The alphabet soup is very similar.
Thank you, Stacy.
But it's a different entity that
Yes.
governs how that money is spent.
Thank you for putting that forward. I was thinking the other day, I bet the Aspen Institute doesn't really like AI anymore. It's kind of changed what their initials could be. Okay, so is there a motion to approve Resolution 116, Series of 2025, the dedicated tax for public education ballot question?
So moved.
And a second.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Sam, do you have any comments on this one before we call roll?
I guess I'll just say I'm happy to vote yes on this, and my time at the school was wonderful, and I've moved on to a new endeavor, which I'll talk about more at a later date, but very happy that this council got to this point, and thankful to be able to vote on it.
Okay, thank you, Sam, appreciate that. Michael, will you call the roll, please?
Counselor Benedetti?
Yes.
Counselor Doyle?
Yes.
Counselor Guth?
Yes.
Counselor Rose?
Yes.
Mayor Richards?
Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Okay, I am going to call for a brief 5-minute break before we go into the, back to the public hearing items, and that is, I think, primarily
Armory.
Armory. Okay, so thanks so much, and sorry, we'll just take a really Welcome back, everyone, to the Aspen City Council meeting, the regular meeting of August 12th. We are having a first reading of an ordinance, which will be relatively brief, and then we're going into the public hearing on the Armory Hall. I appreciate everyone allowing us to change the schedule a little bit to accommodate the school district and let them get back to those parent-child meetings. So this is an ordinance that's coming forward from input with Councilmember Rose, who noted that our charter really referred to almost everything possible as being male, as opposed to that women might hold seats like the mayor's seat or something like that, or be councilwomen. And so we wanted to, Sam was really nice to catch this and request that we put it on the ballot to update our charter going forward. Is there any more introduction that you'd like to give on this from our attorney's office?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I would just note that the charter was adopted in 1970, so this is really an effort to modernize it. I think the 1970 Charter Commission did a great job, but these were changes that Councilmember Rose noted needed to be accomplished to bring us into today. It's been pointed out throughout the years. It's just never been an effort that council really wanted to take. It's not that they didn't want to take it up.
It just didn't.
It's more of an administrative function, but because charter amendments require a vote, I think that it just never got pushed across the finish line. I do want to note, and I did not prepare a presentation, but for the public's purposes, the goal of this ordinance is to simply replace gender-specific terms. As the mayor noted, we use mostly masculine generics throughout the charter. The mayor is the exception to that rule. The mayor provision actually uses he or she.
Maybe that was because of Eve Homeyer.
It could have been. I haven't done the research to explain it. But in any event, this would change terms such as he, his, him to they, them, and theirs. It would also do that for the pronouns she, hers, and she and hers, and that would change them to they, them, and theirs. Terms such as councilman would be amended to be council member. If you would prefer counselors, we can also use that term. I think both have been used. You're referred to sometimes as counselors. You're also referred to as council members. It's really just a preference question. That's a very easy fix before next reading. If you would prefer instead council members and council member to be council or counselors, we can certainly make that amendment. I would note that no provisions of the charter would be changed substantially. The charter will still read the same with these few exceptions, so it doesn't change the meaning in any way. As I said, the charter requires all amendments thereto to be approved by the voters. This ordinance, if approved, contains the form of question that would be placed on the ballot. It's a very simple question. It references the ordinance, and it says, shall ordinance number series of 2025 be approved? It also gives a short description. Ordinance number 9, series of 2025, if approved, amends the City of Aspen charter sections, and it lists, and I apologize to the clerk, he will have to read all of these. It lists several sections, I think there's 13 in all, to replace gender-specific terms with gender-neutral terms. That's the form of question. It is in the ordinance itself. That ordinance is published online if the public would like to see it. Again, this was at your direction, and no substantive changes will result if approved by the voters.
Okay, and this is just first reading, and we will have Mike read, and there will, perhaps for second reading, we can make sure we can put the ballot language up on the screens.
Sure.
People, John?
I just want to say personally, I prefer counselor to council member.
Okay.
And I would note that it takes less characters to type and therefore less time.
I'm relatively neutral, but I was leaning more towards council member because I was raised by attorneys, and my father's attorney, my grandfather's an attorney, and, you know, they refer to attorneys as counselors. And so I wouldn't want anyone to mistake the council for being attorneys.
Why not?
Well, we pretend sometime after we sleep in those Holiday Inn Expresses. Sam, what is your comment on this?
Yeah, thank you, Rachel, and thanks for the recognition and for bringing this up. So follow the same line of logic. Council member made more sense to me because counselor is more in line with other professions, such as legal professions. And then also, I was just wanted to say I'm very happy and thankful that this council is taking this up and putting it on the ballot, because I do believe it's long overdue, and it's a great example of doing something right when other people didn't do something that's like long overdue. So it's very nice that we can finally make this corrected change, and I pray that it passes honestly as unanimously as possible when it is brought to the ballot in November. So thank you very much for taking the time to bring this up and actually put it on the ballot.
Well, thank you for bringing it forward, Sam. Let's just ask to Bill and Christine, how do you feel about counselor versus council member? It does strike me that we have mental health professionals who are counselors and weight loss specialists and, things like this. I think being a council member is a little more distinctive of the role.
I'm fine with council member. I'm just happy to not be a council man anymore.
Okay, Bill.
I'm also happy not to be a council man anymore. No, I think you've made a good argument. Council member seems to make more sense to me, but I would have said I was fairly agnostic. But
Yeah, I understand. Okay, so we have direction for that for second reading, and on second reading, we will make sure we can have the ballot language up on the screen for folks to take a look at. I would now take a motion to have a reading of Ordinance 9, Series of 2025, Charter Amendment to replace gender-specific terms.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Mike, if you'll call the roll on reading.
As my cheat sheet still says counselor, I'm going to be using that
yes,
term at the moment. Counselor Benedetti.
Yes.
Counselor Doyle.
Yes.
Counselor Guth.
yes.
Counselor Rose.
Yes.
Mayor Richards.
Yes. All right, now we're going to have reading.
This is ordinance number 9, series of 2025, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Aspen, Colorado, amending the City of Aspen Home Rule Charter by amending sections 2.4, 3.1, 3.3, 3.5, 3.6, 3.7, 3.8, 3.9, 4.2, 4.7, 6.1, 6.2, 6.3, 6.5, 6.6, 6.8, 7.1, 7.2, 8.2, 9.12, and 9.13 to replace gender-specific terms with gender-neutral terms.
Thank you for that. And now I would accept a motion to approve Ordinance 9, Series of 2025, the charter amendments to replace gender-specific terms on first reading.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded. Mike, will you call the roll for the counselors?
Counselor Benedetti.
Yes.
Counselor Doyle.
Yes.
Counselor Guth.
Yes.
Counselor Rose.
Yes.
Mayor Richards.
Yes. Thank you very much. The motion has passed, and we will see second reading in 2 weeks. So we will now move into our public hearings. And that first item is ordinance number 6, series of 2025, Armory Hall and Connor Memorial Park redevelopment project, major public project, plan development amendment, certificate of appropriateness for major development and related reviews. And if our staff members will just introduce themselves and give us the overview. Thank you.
Yes. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Jillian White, Historic Preservation Officer with the city, and Ben Anderson, Community Development Director, is here as well. I just came up to introduce the item. As he said, it'll be the second reading of ordinance number 6, series of 2025. The applicant team will be presenting first, followed by staff's presentation, and then public comment.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
crossed.
There it is.
Silver nugget in the world.
It's a miracle. Okay.
Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. My name's Jennifer Phelan. I am with the Capital Asset Department, and at the table with me is Jessica Garrow with Design Workshop and Todd Kennedy with CCY Architects. We also have a group of staff and consultants in the first row to be able to answer any questions we might have this evening. This evening, the applicant team will be presenting the proposed remodel and improvements to Armory Hall and Connor Park. I'll be handing this over to Jessica to give background on the project, and then she'll be handing it over to Todd.
If anyone can't hear, please feel free to come forward or be able to read these from afar. Our microphones don't amplify in the room. They're really for the grassroots TV. So if anyone is having any trouble viewing this, please feel free to move a little closer to the screens. Thank you.
So we'll be doing a presentation on the history of the Armory, the design progression of the proposal and the programming, site plan and landscape of Connor Park and the Hopkins right-of-way. We'll be going over relevant review criteria, and we'll be able to answer any questions that you might have. So with that, I'll hand it over to Jessica.
Great. Thank you, Jen. We're really excited to be with you tonight to run through the Armory and Connor Park proposal. Just to orient everyone, Armory and Connor Park are at the corner of Galena and Hopkins. Has had a number of uses over time, including City Hall and really vibrant community park. We're really excited to talk about what the next iteration of Armory and Connor Park might be. Armory has a really long history in Aspen. It was originally built in 1892 and has been through a number of alterations since that time, both architecturally as well as in terms of the interior use. It was really unaltered from its original design, which you can see in that middle picture, until 1905, 1906, when alterations really began. This is from the industrial era in Aspen in terms of its architectural period of significance, which went until about 1906. So you can see here, I'm not going to go through the laundry list of alterations over time, but you can see a number of changes have occurred to the building over time, including adding garage space when the police department was located in the Armory, digging out a basement in the 1990s to create old council chambers, additions and changes to dormers along the north alley side. So just a lot of things that have happened over a period of time to respond to the use that is occurring. And with this project, we are proposing to restore the building to its original period of significance, which includes removal of an eave extension along Hopkins and doing some repointing of brick and updates really to do a great restoration of the project while envisioning its next steps in terms of land use. So community has really been talking about what's the future of the Armory for quite a long time, really for the last 10 years when there was an advisory ballot question related to the location of city offices and what the future of the Armory might be. And so a lot of time and energy has gone into working with the community as well, many council meetings to get to today. Wanted to cover a number of relevant resolutions that have helped the design team really move through what are we thinking about in terms of Armory and Connor Park. And so really focus on an adaptive reuse while maintaining historic character, making sure that the building is financially feasible, financially viable, kind of minimizing some of the impacts to city and taxpayers, and then some very specific direction about the types of additions and changes that should happen. And so that included removal of the eave extension, adding a visitor center, and adding an ADA vestibule off of the Connor Park side, which we'll talk about as we move through. So I mentioned a few things, but this resolution really provided those project principles that I mentioned. And maybe one that I would add is really important to use sustainable systems and showing kind of the community's commitment to environmental sustainability, which has dictated some of the design considerations and decisions relative to mechanical equipment that we'll talk through in a moment. For now, though, I'm going to turn it over to Todd to walk through our floor plans and the design progression for the Armory.
Thanks, Jessica. Great to be back in front of all of you. Thank you for taking the time. We're excited to be at this milestone. We're going to quickly run through an overview of the program just to refresh everybody's memory of what we're talking about here and how we're envisioning the use for this building, the Armory for the Aspen community. To start with, on the main level, the ground floor, we've really, through the feedback that we've heard from all of you over the months that we've been working on this, have focused on how we make this ground floor and the mezzanine level a really family-friendly environment and de-emphasize the presence of alcohol. While there is limited bar service available, what we've come to refer to as the lunch counter, it is going to be seen as limited service and not a prominent back bar in terms of its interior design. It's really about creating a family-friendly atmosphere for coming, getting some food, playing games, meeting with community members, whatever it might be. So that being said, this ground floor is anchored by 3 kitchens, as well as a connection to the visitor center to the north. We have the historic primary entry out to Galena on the left here, and then we have the new openings of Bay 2 and 5 out to the Hopkins Avenue Parklet, as well as the new vestibule and new opening out to Connor Park to really create an active, energized space that allows for permeability when the weather allows for that. Going up to the mezzanine, this mezzanine space has continued to evolve, but we've really seen this as a community lounge space, a place where community members can come and play pool, play shuffleboard. We think there's an opportunity to think about this as a teen hangout zone, from the time school gets out until the early evening when maybe they're meeting their families here for dinner. Just an opportunity to think about how this space meets some needs of the community that don't exist today that other portions within the Armory floor plan don't allow for, such as those games. We've got a larger community table that can then double as informal meeting space. You'll see that we've evolved the design a little bit to take the right-hand side of this mezzanine and open it up and really make it feel like more of part of that space. And as we continue to explore the interior design, that continues to evolve and change. And we'll be back in front of you at some point to get into more detail on those details. Going up to the upper level, this level is really seen as maybe the place where the bar does begin to take center stage, using a central bar as a draw to bring people up to the second floor. And during the day, I think the large draw to this space. Sorry, second floor. The mezzanine isn't technically a floor of the building, which is a very important detail to the building department.
Okay.
So this is the second floor.
Top level.
Dennis would not want to hear you say that this is a third floor, so it would change a lot of things.
Thank you for that.
So the bar is centralized here, and we use it as an organizing element for the space. And the idea is that this space can be used for Bill to come and host a birthday party here and could use the space that is sort of behind the bar and have a private area for people who are attending the party and then moving out to the kitchens to get their food and come back and have some reserved seating. So this second floor is particularly thought about how does it provide that need for the community members to have special events, special engagements, and be part of the experience here at Armory Hall. I think as we move to the lower level, that sort of idea of community flexibility has continued to be ingrained in this plan, really creating a large open hall that can serve a multitude of needs, from meeting, banquet, and market to name the ones that we've sort of continuously illustrated here. But I think additionally, art classes could be held here, art shows could be held here, teenager game nights or gatherings could be held here on the weekends or even weekdays. So again, this space and its new connection to Connor Park, creating, I think, a much more daylit entrance safer entrance and a stronger connection to Connor Park, I think makes this community meeting space a real asset for Armory Hall and the community.
Thank you.
So as we move into the physical design of the exterior, this is obviously the Galena Street elevation. The design team's attitude towards this side of the building from really the beginning of the project has been a restoration of this facade to speak to the history of the building. The entirety of the building's brick, both exterior and interior, because of structural requirements and rehabilitation goals, will be fully repointed. The goal was, how did this feel in 1893, and how do we get it back to feeling that way today? The addition of the visitor center, as Jessica alluded to, has been positioned on the north side of the building where additions have occurred historically throughout the building's use. We've kept that building very low relative to the northern eave that you can see here. Additionally, we've set the face of that addition back substantially from the face of Galena. So again, that the prominence of the Armory as you walk up and down Galena is really the historic building. And then additionally, we've used copper, weathered copper, that will really recede again versus the bright reddish orange brick.
I don't know if we want to save all questions to the end while we have these visuals up or ask along the way. What would you guys?
I'm comfortable either way, but.
I think it's council's preference.
Okay, well, I just don't want to have to say, can you go back to that slide 25 slides ago? Can you go back to the last slide for a second then? What is that tower-looking thing on the visitor center?
That's actually the church steeple beyond.
Is that? I was
Yeah.
wondering, and I just couldn't tell from the pictures. I wanted to make sure of that. And then the second question is the visitor center one floor, or does it have a basement, a subsurface?
It's one floor. The lower level underneath the visitor center is dedicated to back of house space and circulation and bathrooms for the entire building.
So there will be a floor underneath that, but it's not for the visitor center?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. It just kind of helps understand some of the lower level design more. Thank you.
So as we move to this next slide, we start to move into the process that we've been through with Jillian, Historic Preservation staff, as well as HPC. One of the comments we received from HPC is how we create more of a sense of the continuity of the brick wall. And one of the HPC members had suggested not only glass at the front of the visitor center, but glass at the back of the visitor center. So we accommodated that. You can see here that the continuity of the historic armory is really maintained through this view as you walk into the visitor center. As we move around to both the Hopkins and Connor Park side, I'd say this was where the majority of the work and collaboration was between the design team, the city, as well as historic preservation staff and HPC. On the left is where we started long ago, and on the right is where we are today. The last time we met, we were directed to go back and work with HPC monitors and historic preservation staff to get to a place that all felt like we were balancing the guidelines with the economic viability of the project, and that will result in what we share with you next. As a part of that process, obviously coming out of HPC, we had a number of conditions, and we've worked with, again, Jillian and the HPC monitors to really address those conditions to their satisfaction. This is where we were the last time we met, and we'll click forward to the next slide to demonstrate how the building has changed. You'll see, of course, that we're still proposing the removal of the Hopkins Avenue eave extension per your direction at our last meeting, or at our last work session, rather. We've then worked to tune the proportions of the openings in bays 2 and 5, as well as the design of the canopies to simplify these and make them more harmonious with the historic architecture of the armory. Probably the most significant change on this elevation that we'll see as we go to the next slides. Let's actually come back to that one. Sorry, Jess. As we go to this next slide is the evolution in this canopy that wrapped from the new vestibule to bay 2 to 5. I think HPC's and historic preservation staff's biggest concern was sort of the size and the presence that that canopy had on this corner. And so really beginning to disassociate the canopy of the vestibule with the canopy of Bay 5, letting them live as two independent elements, but still meet the needs of what we see as the successful operation of Armory Hall as this community-based food hall. To back up one slide, we did want to point out throughout this process, we've been really showing the Hopkins Avenue elevations without street trees so that the focus of the building has been on the architecture and how the architecture has been proposed to change and evolve. But we wanted to show at this point this slide because there are street trees planned to be replaced here, and this starts to represent the true character of this elevation versus, you know, what we've been sharing that doesn't show those trees. I think back to Connor Park and is the vestibule. HPC continued to have some concerns about the vestibule in terms of its scale and size. We worked with them to reduce the vestibule really to its smallest functional footprint in terms of accommodating double swing doors both into the vestibule, then into the armory. We also lowered it in height to address their concerns, and again, we've already addressed the questions around the canopy. In terms of material palette, we've talked a lot about the brick. We're planning to use weathered copper, which is illustrated here for the vertical surfaces of the vestibule and the visitor center that are not glass. In terms of roofing material, we haven't landed on a roofing material yet, but have committed to continuing to work with HP staff and HPC to select what that material will be. And then we'll continue to work with them on the specificity of the steel glazing. Then the painted shingles are just going to be restored on the dormers, as well as the sandstone detailing that exists in combination with the masonry.
Thank you.
So next we wanted to talk through the site plan and some of the specific aspects relative to landscape and adjustments at Connor Park. So this is the proposed site plan, and Todd has mentioned this, and we talked about this in our work session with you. There were a number of conditions from HPC, and we've really tried to address all of those as part of the updated materials we shared in advance of the meeting and what we're running through tonight. And so some of those are just highlighted here, and it includes kind of best practices in terms of making sure it's clear there's a gravel border along the building to prevent water and weather damage. Todd mentioned the Hopkins streetscape and the parklet, and we're really excited about that opportunity here in terms of creating an indoor-outdoor space in connection with the streetscape and the use in the Armory Hall, as well as the connection to Connor Park. And this really creates a holistic space that's indoor-outdoor for the community. And as part of that, we've updated how we're thinking about the stepping stones into the entrance at the Hopkins elevation to be a little bit more subdued. Those are not intended to be year-round entrances. Those are seasonal entrances when in summer months. And making sure we wanted to highlight, and I've got a couple of additional slides here, there is a very large, really heritage spruce tree in Connor Park that we have worked to maintain, as well as a very large street tree here, and really wanting to make sure that those are maintained in terms of keeping the existing character. But we have an opportunity to use the space under that spruce tree for what we are calling kind of the tree deck, but it has integrated seating, opportunity for people to go into the armory, get their sandwich, cup of coffee, come out and have a shaded space to enjoy that in. And then the kind of open area on Connor Park, some comments relative to materials. We've got a few slides to share with that. The other really important piece is the alley access is maintained, and the kind of service back of house entrance is off of the alley, and we are maintaining between 4 to 6 parking spaces in the alley, depending on seasonal use, and creating a great space for additional on-site bike parking. There was a question at first reading about tree removal, and so we do have tree removal plans as part of the application, and many of the trees on site in Connor Park are really in poor health, particularly the ones that are in the light well, and so those would be removed, and here you can see the updated planting plan, really preserving those largest trees on site and really celebrating those, and then adding some new street tree elements and screening along the side. Really quickly, planting palette, really wanting to make sure we've got drought tolerant and kind of low material to make sure we're maintaining great views to the Armory, particularly from the parklet space. There was also a question at first reading about snow storage and snow removal. So there are a number of different spaces for snow storage to occur on site. Additionally, in winter months when there may be less use in kind of what we'll call maybe a plaza space, that's also available for snow storage. Currently, there is snow that is stored and then trucked off, particularly along the alley side of the property, and so that would continue in addition to having some spaces for on-site snow storage. I mentioned bikes, and there was a question at first reading about VI.C locations. So this was something that we have talked about quite a lot with the Transportation Department. We've had some previous council conversations about this. And the proposed VI.C location is in the alley as a seasonal location. So in the summer, it would be located here. In the winter months, it would go away and it would return 2 parking spaces to the alley for folks to be able to use vehicles. An alternative location that we explored is also on the alley, just north of where we're proposing up to 26 kind of bike parking spaces for any community member who wants to bike to the site. That has some good visibility, but it potentially requires the loss of 3 parking spaces on a seasonal basis versus 2. And so we felt that the other alley location is kind of preferred. And it has a potential to create some conflict with this proposed additional bike parking. And then a third option is to remove an additional parking space along Hopkins and place that here next to the parklet. That idea was ultimately we did not move forward with because it does not allow for electrification of the station and electric bikes, as well as some of the other locations. And it's also in one of the critical tree root zones for the trees that we're trying to preserve. And so that's some of the rationale behind the proposed location.
Thank you.
The final piece on site design that I wanted to cover is the kind of plaza, the gathering space within Connor Park. We had originally proposed synthetic turf, which HPC did not support, and in our last conversation, council agreed with that direction, and so really trying to explore some other material opportunities. We are committed to continuing to work with staff and monitor on these, but wanted to share with council what some of those options might include. So that includes permeable pavers, a brick blend that kind of matches some of the historic brick that we see around town, flagstone, and then stabilized crusher fines. And there's pros and cons to all of these. And as we move forward in that process with HPC staff and monitor, it's going to be really important to select a material that also meets stormwater requirements, and so some coordination with the engineering department as well. But you can see here, I'm just going to click through quickly, this is what that space might look like with pavers, with the brick option, flagstone, and a stabilized crusher fine. And so these are all kind of hardscape options that we're exploring, and again, we'll continue to work through that process, but wanted to share that with council so that you have that information.
And just 2 kind of comments or questions, more comments. My understanding is that because we're anticipating so much foot traffic and use, especially in the summer with the farmers markets and all, that the turf would just be almost impossible to keep growing, and it would be a muddy type of experience. So that's
Yes.
why you're looking to vegetation that's planted and the flower beds and things like that, but basically a hardscape for the rest of it.
Yes, that's right.
Okay, that is just the reasoning why, and I think that's really all I really want to say for kind of public consumption. We'll take public comments at the end of the meeting, okay? So, you know, after all the presentations. That's all I want to clarify right now. John, did you have?
I would add to your comments, I was in this park during Saturday market, and that the giant pine tree is a huge part of that park, but what it does is create a space underneath it that will not allow anything to grow, and it's basically when it really rains, it gets muddy, so I understand the hardscape.
Yeah, and these renderings just kind of show the material are not showing that full kind of shadow that tree can can give. So it is.
Okay. Yeah, no, I just wanted the why.
Yeah,
of why we're moving away from a turf surface. So thank you.
Yeah. And so just really quickly, a number of HPC conditions from their recommendation that we've really tried to respond to, and again, continuing to be committed to working with HPC staff and monitor, would call out that conditions 1 and 2, council gave different direction on, and so those are conditions that we have not fully implemented in the design, but have really worked to address the others. We wanted to close out really briefly in running through the relevant review criteria. So this is a public building and city-owned asset, and given that and its proposed use as kind of a community space, it is subject to the Public Projects Review, which enables a consolidated review. Linked to that is planned development and growth management reviews. This building is exempt from growth management. The size is actually smaller in terms of square footage in what is proposed compared to what is today, and so it falls under an exemption. And that planned development is really important given zoning. It helps establish those dimensional allowances and limitations, and so those are included in the ordinance. We've gone through an extensive design review with HPC, really looking at the historic preservation and commercial design reviews. So we're actually going to spend a next few slides talking through some of the technical pieces that we haven't covered previously. So one of those is the Mountain View Plain. There are 2 protected view planes from the courthouse steps, Courthouse View Plane 1 and Courthouse View Plane 2, and they both cross the property. They just kind of nick the corner of the Armory building, but they do cover all of Connor Park. And so we've completed some height studies and really worked in thinking about how are we placing mechanical equipment in particular on the building to make sure that we are not infringing on that view plane. So all of the improvements in Connor Park are lower than the view plane lines, and we've been really thoughtful about the mechanical equipment location, and I'll have Todd cover that.
Yeah, so one of the requests for the application is mechanical height variance, and this is really due to the city of Aspen leading on this project. We're, again, excuse me, doing 5 commercial kitchens, and this will be an all-electric building, both in terms of those kitchens as well as the heating and cooling systems relying on heat pumps. In order to meet the makeup air requirements and the heating and cooling requirements of this building for this use, it really requires mechanical equipment to be taller than what the land use code currently allows for. That being said, all of our equipment is screened so that it's not visible from adjacent right-of-ways. And so that language is typically 6 feet from the point of attachment. We're asking for a variance to 8 feet from the point of attachment to the top of equipment.
So a 2-foot variance.
Correct. In terms of one of the detail within the land use code, we are meeting all the trash and recycling requirements for a commercial project of this size.
And then the final piece that we wanted to cover is just transportation, mobility, and parking. This property is really in the heart of the community, and it is really well connected in terms of transit service, sidewalks, and bicycling. And so this site plan really has focused on ensuring ADA access through the park and into the building. And you see that here in terms of the various pathways that folks can use. Really importantly, there is a kind of a deck space, a covered deck space in the back, and this is the ADA access from the street to get there. So someone in a wheelchair or with a stroller would be able to access that. And then we also have an ADA kind of clear path where it exists today, and that vestibule provides that ADA access into the building, though noting that our primary access, our primary facade remains off of Galena. We talked about VI.C, so I won't spend much time there. As an essential...
What is III.A, though?
Oh, yeah.
Your initials, I always like to get the
Yeah,
acronyms.
it's a transportation impact analysis, which is required in the code, and we address that through infrastructure improvements, which are shown here, and then programming.
Thank you.
And then the final piece is establishment of parking requirement as an essential public facility is done through special review. And that is that kind of flexibility of between 4 to 6 on-site spaces off of the alley, 4 in the summer and 6 in the winter when the VI.C is moved. So a lot to get through. Really appreciate your time, and I think we're happy to answer any questions before you move to the next part of the meeting.
Thank you. Does anyone have any more detailed questions going forward? I noted my question from the last time was in the packet, but I wasn't sure I caught the answer to it. And that was the size and ability of the elevators to really handle both audiences going up to the 3rd floor who aren't going to be walking the steps, and kitchens going down to the basement and out to the compost, and delivery trucks coming in all at the same time. What is the size of the elevator, and how well will it accommodate, that multi-use demand?
So the specific size of the elevator, I can't tell you, but I can tell you we're working with an operator or an operating consultant, rather, 2 of them, one for the city and one for the design team. And the size of the elevator has been reviewed with them, and they feel comfortable with that. The vast majority of the time that elevator is going to be used for service requirements is going to be earlier in the day when the load on the building from a sort of front of house user is lower. And so we feel like we've got the right size. And then also from a building code requirement, we actually just had a meeting with Dennis and Nick at the building department to confirm their understanding of the elevator size requirements as it relates to code requirements, and are in compliance there also.
Yeah, I just used to be in the restaurant business, and Bill might have some experience with this too, where the trucks come in late and they don't get there till 3 o'clock, and they don't get there till later. It depends on the snow and the weather conditions, and did I-70 close down, and so I just have been concerned that is that going to be sufficient to have one be both a service and then the public amenity elevator?
We can look at that as we move forward from here.
Yeah, I just, boy, whenever you go in City Market and the shelves are bare, it's because the truck didn't come in. And then the crew that unloads it isn't there anymore. So, our remoteness from the delivery services, and so many people will get fish from the fish guy, and then tomatoes less expensive this week from this vendor, and you can really end up with a very clogged alley of people trying to deliver all at the same time when they do make it early in the day. So I have been concerned about whether the functionality.
Yes, I think it's a great point. And on that note, I'm also wondering if there's a back stair or a vault or anything we should be contemplating for direct access down to the basement from the alley. Might be really beneficial to sort of separate those two conflicting uses.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something we're happy to look at.
Take a look.
Yeah, because our sort of bulk storage, back of house storage is downstairs, so maybe there's an opportunity there.
Yeah.
Like I'm envisioning a New York City style sidewalk vault with a stair that goes straight down, or a ramp, or
something
like that.
Yeah. Now, and I would note for all of us, including the audience, that both, our resolution, or ordinance rather, goes forward to commit to the conditional and continued work with HPC on refining a number of these elements, and that should there be design changes necessary that are more interior or just technical for the functioning of the building, those can be changed through administrative review. And so it would not have to come back through full public hearings if that further examination shows some other needs. Thank you. Please let me stop interrupting.
That's it.
Is there any other questions? Sam, you from afar have any questions on what you're able to see here?
No, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. We will now move on to the staff presentation. We will take all the public comments at the end of all the presentations.
Sorry, while I get all set up. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Jillian White, Aspen's Historic Preservation Officer. And before you tonight is the public hearing and second reading of Ordinance Number 6 of Series 2025, which speaks to proposed alterations to Armory Hall and Connor Memorial Park. Given the scope of this project, several sections from the Land Use Code are applicable, each of which will be mentioned in this presentation. Those sections include Public Projects Review, Historic Preservation Certificate of Appropriateness for Major Development, Plan Development Amendment, Commercial Design Review, Mountain View Plan Review, Growth Management Review, and Special Review for Transportation and Parking Management. This slide provides an overview of the process to date following acceptance of a complete application in March of this year. Following a couple public hearings before the HPC, which resulted in a recommendation of denial and conditions that would better meet applicable historic preservation-related guidelines and standards, Council held a work session to discuss the HPC recommendation and provide direction to the applicant team. At the work session, Council directed the applicant team to work with Historic Preservation staff and the Historic Preservation Commission Chair and Vice Chair to work through all outstanding items with the goal of aligning with HPC recommendations to the extent possible without negatively impacting the economic viability of the project. This meeting took place on June 25th. After discussion on various aspects of the project, the applicant team revised the design and resubmitted an updated proposal, which was provided at first reading on July 22nd. Council approved Ordinance Number 6, Series of 2025 at first reading and set a public hearing for today. At first reading, Council asked a few questions relating to the project, all of which were focused on the design and programming choices and were responded to by the applicant during their presentation you just heard. So I will skip past repeating these questions. Following first reading, there were minor adjustments to the ordinance. These changes include updating the maximum number of bike parking on the site to 26 rather than 28, technical adjustments to proposed maximum height to acknowledge the final design of the skylights, additional language to include the option to relocate the WeCycle station off-site, additional language to capture an additional variation for height of mechanical equipment, additional language to give clarity to the review process for any changes related to historic preservation outcomes, and additional language to acknowledge the need for a temporary and permanent right-of-way encroachment during construction and for permanent improvements. As the historic preservation component of this project was one of the most involved, I would like to again run through the current design and note the updated design after the work with the HPC and staff. Although not every condition recommended by the Historic Preservation Commission has been met, Staff appreciate the direction council gave the applicant team related to working with the HPC and staff to find a better balance between economic viability and the preservation of such an important historic resource. Staff would like to note that it is clear the collaboration between the applicant team, Historic Preservation staff, and the Historic Preservation Commission has undoubtedly resulted in a better design compared to what was initially proposed. On this slide is a rendering provided by the applicant team that shows the proposed Galena Street facade. This elevation will remain as is outside of the visitor addition proposed on the north side of the Armory. This provided rendering depicts the proposed design for the Hopkins Avenue facade. The applicant is continuing to propose the removal of the historically significant southern eave per council direction. The current design took some of the HPC feedback into consideration and includes smaller canopies positioned at a lower height with a modified simple form. The applicant also made a slight reduction in the sizing of the proposed fenestration at bays 2 and 5. The proposed roofing material, gutter material and placement, and details of window openings are to be worked through with Historic Preservation staff and HPC monitor following council approval as agreed to with the applicant and noted in the ordinance. Here you can see the previous design as the applicant team also shared. And I'll show again the current design so you can see the changes that have been made after that collaboration. This provided rendering depicts the proposed design for the updated right-of-way and sidewalk area, as well as the vestibule addition and new fenestration on the east side of the Armory. The applicant took some of the feedback from the HPC and made the fenestration smaller and the canopy more simplified. The applicant has not provided renderings of the proposed park space. However, it was determined that artificial turf is not appropriate and agreed to by council. Additionally, the applicant has agreed to work with the Historic Preservation staff and HPC monitor to identify an alternative material for the park gathering space as noted in the proposed ordinance. Again, here is the previous design and the current, so you can see the changes that have been made. During staff review of the project, it was found that the proposal met several standards within the Plan Development Project Review Standards section of the code, including those related to development suitability, site planning, dimensions, pedestrian, bicycle, and transit facilities, engineering design standards, public infrastructure and facilities, and access and circulation. However, it was also found that there were standards which have not been met or only partially met, which include compliance with the AACP and design standards, as not all applicable historic preservation guidelines have been met. When reviewing the detailed reviewed standards, staff found that several applicable criteria have been met. The proposed landscaping plan preserves significant features and is well designed with the implementation of native and drought-tolerant plant species. The inclusion of ADA accessible spaces within Connor Memorial Park is an important addition, along with providing a new ADA entrance into the Armory from Hopkins Avenue. Staff find that the proposal meets criteria related to improving pedestrian, bicycle, and transit facilities, as the applicant will be relocating the WeCycle station to the site and adding additional bike racks. Staff recognize that the proposal also meets applicable criteria associated with design, access and circulation, and updates to public infrastructure. Staff found that the criteria within design standards and architecture have not been fully met, as not all applicable historic preservation design guidelines have been met. The applicant is not requesting any variations to the commercial design review related standards. Connor Memorial Park meets the pedestrian amenity requirements with the proposed improvements including benches, ADA access to the park, and appropriate landscaping. The addition of the visitor center adds visual interest in the alley with the proposed materials and setback. Parking will be within the alley, located away from the historic resource, with landscaping located in front of the spaces to better screen them from view. Although some of the commercial design standards have been met, a few were only partially met, as there are items which are to be worked through with historic preservation staff and HPC monitor following council approval, as agreed to with the applicant and noted in the ordinance. These items include final material selection, lighting details, and designing alterations to better relate to the existing building style. For example, the attachment details for the proposed canopies along Hopkins Avenue. The applicant has provided documentation modeling how the proposed work relates to the Courthouse Mountain View planes. Currently, the Armory is partially located within the foreground of both Courthouse Mountain view planes, and Connor Memorial Park is fully located within the foreground of both view planes. No improvements are being made to the portions of the Armory that are located within the view planes, and the improvements within Connor Memorial Park do not rise above 15 feet, the height of the view plane as it crosses the subject property. While only a small portion of the Armory building itself is located in the view plane, in staff's opinion, the proposed changes to the flat roof and concealment of rooftop mechanical will significantly improve the building's response to the intentions of mountain view plane regulations. Given this, staff find that the proposed development is designed in a way that does not obscure or diminish the public's view of the mountains. The current proposal is not triggering demolition and is not increasing mitigation floor area. As a structure listed in the Aspen Inventory of Historic Landmark Sites and Structures, the project is exempt from GMQS requirements. While community development staff agree with this application of the exemption, it does not preclude the review of this significant project through important lenses that exist within the GMQS section of the code, notably a review under change in use and/or essential public facilities. Staff remain of the opinion that moving from primarily an office use to what will become a commercial for-profit food and beverage facility will likely translate to additional employee generation. The exemption to Aspen's growth management quota system described on the previous slide is also important to parking and transportation considerations. It additionally exempts, one moment. I don't know how to get to that.
My battery's running low too.
So is my computer's.
That little pop-up doesn't show on my screen. So I'm not sure how to get rid of it. Oh, there we go. Sorry. Okay. I think I accidentally skipped ahead. I'll go back a few sentences. Aspen's GMQS growth management quota system described on the previous slide is also important to parking and transportation considerations. It additionally exempts the project from transportation impact analysis, transportation demand management, and multimodal level of service mitigation. As a public use, this project is subject to special review. Again, community development staff agree with the application of the code in this manner, but similarly to GMQS, acknowledge that the project has not been reviewed under provisions that are typically applied to projects of this scale. Ultimately, staff is not concerned about the project's compliance with the intent of our parking and transportation requirements due to the significant investments that the city of Aspen makes to pedestrian, bicycle, and parking infrastructure across the city, and particularly in the commercial core. On this slide, you can see the existing site plan with existing parking highlighted in green. Currently, there are 10 standard spaces and 1 ADA space located along the alley, 6 standard spaces along Hopkins, and 4 spaces along Galena. On this slide, you can see the proposed site plan with proposed parking spaces in green. I noticed that on the applicant's presentation, they had the cycle shifted down, so I think we just didn't get an updated version. So the outline in blue should be at the end instead of at the left side of your screen. The current proposal includes the removal of 5 parking spaces within the alley and the removal of 6 street parking spaces along Hopkins Avenue for a total removal of 11 parking spaces on the subject site. The proposal results in 4 to 6 alley located spaces remaining on site depending on the time of year. Finding a balance between proposed uses and dedicating area to parking is a conversation and evaluation that happens on all projects. And in staff opinion, it remains a question on this project that council is encouraged to discuss. This concludes our staff presentation, and our staff is available to answer any questions at this time, after which I will proceed to staff's recommendation and proposed motion on the next slide.
Council members, questions or comments on this half of the presentation?
I would just say very thorough. We've all been through this so much. I think we know this backwards and forwards.
Great.
You know, I have one comment, and it sounds somewhat trivial because I have not been through it quite as many times as you. We started it before and then back in the action. But when I was reading through the memo, I found it a little bit confusing when it would always say staff. because I was like, is that HPC staff saying this, or is that ComDev staff saying this? And, I worked my way through it, but I just would kind of put that out for something in the future. That we need to know when Parks, usually it would say Parks Department staff said this, but when it was talking about the buildings, what's approved and supported and not supported, it just got a little confusing to me.
No, I understand. That's great feedback. Historic preservation is within community development, so I think I automatically just would put staff in general, but I think that's something we can make note of for future.
Like, who's this coming from sometimes? So that would just be a comment for future applications.
Just for your information, a project that community development has in the works is a style guide for how we describe such things for consistency across our memos. So.
And nice. Thank you for that. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And Sam, did you have any questions from afar?
No, thank you so much.
Okay, no, thank you. All right, and now we'll take a look at the next two slides.
Yeah, the next slide, since there are no questions, is just that staff recommends approval of ordinance number 6, series of 2025 with conditions as proposed, and then before you is the proposed motion, should you so choose to approve.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate this. After the staff presentation, and there being no more questions from our board, we will take public comments now. And so we'll just ask you to come on up, and anyone who wants to make a comment, raise their hand. And we usually limit those to about 3 minutes. I only see a few people here, so, and this has been a long meeting. You've been kind to sit through. I'm going to take the young gentleman in the back first, so come forward, give us your name for the record, and in theory, you'll have about 3 minutes, but I'm going to be a little loose with this. It's an important project.
I'll use a lot less than that out of respect for everyone's time. Hi, everybody. My name's Brett Bayman. I'm here in my role as part of the Aspen Pitkin Healthy Futures Coalition.
Okay.
Kayla Bailey was going to be here alongside me. She was not able to given the small fires that broke out in Newcastle. Fingers crossed about that.
Fingers crossed.
In short, I want to express gratitude to not just the council, but all of the staff contributions that have gone into the thorough consideration of all of the details, both large and small. Particularly, I want to express the coalition's support for a couple things, namely the prioritization of meeting unmet needs in the community. In my role facilitating the Youth Advocates Wing of the coalition, which is currently a group of about 12 high school students at the Aspen schools. We see a consistent theme of there's a lack of accessible third spaces for young people, particularly a lack of affordable, accessible third spaces. And so, we're very happy to see the intention that's gone into not only de-emphasizing alcohol on the first floor, a teen and youth-oriented space on the mezzanine, but also the affordability considered into all of that, as well as, bike access, pedestrian access, all of that. So in summary, very grateful to all of the thoughtful consideration, and would like to, voice a request for continued thoughtful consideration and prioritization of meeting unmet needs in the community.
Thank you very much for taking the time to attend our meeting and for your work as a volunteer.
Yeah, will you tell us one more time, Brett, what the name of the organization is?
Yes, Aspen Pitkin Healthy Futures Coalition. Happy to talk anyone's ear off about that if you're interested. You can reach out to either myself, Kayla Bailey, or Catherine Sand if you want to talk more.
Okay, thank you. We'll do that. I see Susan Welch come on up, and then we'll have Richard next.
My name is Susan Welsh, and 10 years ago, that man right there, who was 10 years younger, said to me, wouldn't it be great if this building, which was 130 years old, could actually be something for the public? And I got so excited about it, that's when it all started. And I can't tell you how happy I am with all of you and all of you who have done so much work on it. But I have a couple questions.
Okay.
did you say, I couldn't hear him, so I'm sorry, you may have said the same thing, but are you saying there'll be no beer or wine or alcohol in the building?
No, there's just a de-emphasizing, the original plans had a larger kind of bar area on the first floor.
Okay.
And now there'll be a small little service area for people who want to drink without going all the way to the third floor. And the third floor is where more of the main bar for the adults will be.
Oh, good. All right, and bathrooms, are there bathrooms on the ground floor?
We will have to ask the architect back up to answer a few of these questions. So if you could come back up, Todd, that'd be great.
There are bathrooms both on the lower level and the uppermost level, but not on the main level. So
Okay.
you'd take the elevator to the lower level or to the upper level to use the
There's an
restrooms.
elevator for old people.
Correct.
Okay. And there's no restrooms in the visitor center either. They would direct people into the main armory
Correct.
and up or down.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
And
Just stay there in case we need you.
Yeah, no, that's right. The other thing I've noticed with Connor Park, it's so dark and dingy in there.
Yeah.
And I've seen homeless lying there. And so I'm really glad to see all the work that you all have done to sort of make it more open and not so dark. And it's really quite, I think what you've done, I can't tell you how happy I am, all of,
Okay.
and that's it. Thank you.
Hey, that's great, that's great. And, you know, I'm going to throw a shout out to Bruce Etkin as well. I think he was one of the people who helped with the campaign to say, hey, this should be for public use in that
Absolutely.
election that happened, so.
I've talked to him.
Yeah, very nice. Thank you, and thank you for your persistence. And Richard, it's your turn.
First, I should say that I'm really grateful for all the work that you guys are doing on the Armory. And I do have a couple of suggestions.
Okay? And just first say your name for the record.
My name is Richard Chung Yu, capital Tseng -YU, Lai, LAI.
Thank you for the clerk. Appreciate that.
First of all, I'm really grateful that you guys are working on the Armory because I have very emotional ties to that building. I was on the P&Z and Historic Preservation Commission in that building, and I have emotional attachments to it. I'm really, really glad that you guys are taking action on it, and I do have a couple of suggestions for you.
Okay?
The building is, I think, 4 stories high and a basement, is that correct?
It's 3 stories high.
Okay, and a basement.
Ish.
For many, many years, I've been on the P&Z and Historic Preservation Commission in that building, so I have emotional ties to it. And I do have a couple of suggestions for you.
Okay.
The building it's a very tall building, and my suggestion, which I've had renderings on, was that there be a, how would I say it, an elevated shaft that shows the entire height of the building, starting from the basement, you know, below street level, all the way to the top. As I said,
I believe there is an elevator.
no, I'm not talking about elevator, I'm talking about the visual design. In other words, if you have a well that people can actually look down or look up, they can see the entire height of the building. Do you follow what I'm saying? It's not a
Atrium.
practical thing,
Right.
but I think it's a design thing. And I should tell you, I'm an architect. I have a PhD from the University of Pennsylvania, so I know what I'm talking about. The building is a beautiful, beautiful building, but you need to show the height of the building so the public can look up or look down. When they come in on street level, they would look down into the basement, and they could look up all the way up to the roof. And if there's a skylight up there, they can see the entire height of the building. Do you follow what I'm saying? It's a visual thing. It's not necessarily a practical thing, because the practical thing is just to have floors.
No, I understand what you're saying. I think that given all the uses that we would like in the building, it gets really hard to lose much floor area ratio, so much floor area for the various activities. I think we're pretty far along with our design now to go back to change that.
Well, that's your prerogative, but I'm telling you, I have emotional ties to that building because I was on the P&Z and Historic Preservation Commission.
I have emotional ties too. I was mayor in that building.
Yes,
and
I
I was
know.
on council. So I think the community as a whole has emotional ties to the building, and I appreciate the suggestion. But what other ideas did you have that you wanted to offer?
Well, that's the main thing. You know, if you have bars in there, they have to be segregated so that children can come in.
Yes, we will be monitoring that and managing that. We did not want to make it a building all for children, and if you really want adults to come and enjoy it the way they might want a cold beer.
It's a community building. It is a community building, and I think it's owned by the people of Aspen.
Yes, it is.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for your initial drawings. What you sent to us and went on to our staff and to others was very inspirational.
I
and
think
there's
you see my
variations,
drawings.
but we really appreciate what you've been contributing and pushing us along.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I see an additional public comment in the back, sir.
Thank you. My name is Michael Robb, and I have a couple of questions, probably more for CCY and design workshops. I'm wondering if you could create a winter rendering. Currently, all the renderings are shown in the summer scene, and so much of our life here is revolved around the winter season, so I don't want that to be forgotten about. And I'm sure we're going to try to encourage ski foot traffic to the Armory after the mountain, closes. And I'm wondering if there's possibility for some ski racks to be included in the design. And then also, since it's been such a hit up at Snowmass, the s'mores and the fire pit kind of activity that takes place when the mountain closes, that could be something interesting to use in the park space or along the sidewalk space. Maybe there's a room for a gas fireplace. And I have another question regarding the interior decoration and the furniture design. Like, I was just at Aspen Valley Health recently, and their new entrance, the furniture choices seemed very intentional and also offered a great kind of variety of seating options, and I was really impressed. And I'm just curious, like, who ends up making those decisions, and if that's like something the community has input on. And then I'm also curious, like, is there potential for like a small space for live music, whether that's on the second floor that feels like a third floor space, the bar room, or somewhere else? I don't know, I just wanted to bring that up. And then my last question is, what kind of like, and this is a question, like, what's the process like when we decide who actually gets into these spaces to offer the food and beverage?
Yeah, I don't know if we have a staff member. Jen, you might be better to explain the master lease concept. So come on up and you can answer that one, and we'll take a look at these other ones. I think your concept of should we have a ski rack that we can put in the winter when we take out the recycled makes total sense. I think looking at other types of winter uses, of course, makes a lot of sense. I'm not as sure. I think it'd be a council discussion if we wanted to use further natural gas for various reasons. And the seating choices, again, might be something that staff can help address. But you're absolutely right. Aspen Health has done a great job up there. And, sometimes the devil is in the details, and it's very important to get those right. So, Jen, we'll let you go first, or do you want?
So I'm going to have Todd go first to
Please.
address Richard's comments on views and
Okay.
being able to see multiple stories.
Sure.
Yeah, so just to add to Richard's comments, we actually do have the opportunity to stand on the main level, the existing ground floor, and look up through the mezzanine and up through the second level and see the roof of the armory and the new skylights that we've added there. Code prohibits us from opening the lower level to that same space without incurring a great deal of significant costs. So to a large degree, within the bounds of budget and building code, I think we've making real steps towards achieving what Richard has seen as his vision for the project and being able to understand the very impressive scale and volume of the interior of the building.
That's great. That's really great to have pointed that out. And so it would not be from the very basement level, but from the first floor.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
We can definitely look at ski racks. I mean, there are a lot of items going into the park, but that is definitely something we could look at as a seasonal basis. We could work with parks with to see if there's a feasible spot for something like that and if it's used.
Yeah.
You addressed the fire pit. I'll let Todd add a little bit more to this. With seating, we're looking at a mix of tables and soft seating so that there'll be places to lounge. How do you want to talk a little bit more about that?
I think I'd say where we're at with the interior design scope of work is about where this process was maybe 4 or 5 months ago. So we're beginning to focus on that. We actually just on Friday last week had a 2.5-hour design review session with about 8 architects and 6 interior designers in our office to begin critiquing our preliminary work before it comes to you guys for an information sharing session that we're planning here sometime in the near, not too distant future. Yeah. And so the sort of plan for that right now is a combination of both bar seating, high top seating, table seating, booth seating, lounge seating. So it really does meet a number of different types of casual and dining type needs. So there'll be a wide variety.
And then I haven't talked about this in a while, but with regard to music, we have had conversations with another operator and sound on what we need on each floor. Generally thinking if it's operating as a food hall, there's the ability to do small music on each floor.
Yeah, okay.
Unless there's something else, but that's really what that was being developed right now for.
And the other question is who will be doing the lease up and master lease?
I didn't write that one down.
That's okay.
So we are working on an RFP to put out to the public to get proposals back for people who would be interested in operating this building. That would be reviewed by council and that would go into lease negotiations to make sure that the expectations of the community and city council are met within any lease terms.
Cool. Thanks.
Does that help?
Yeah.
And whoever gets that master lease will then be getting the vendors
Yes.
for the space.
Yes.
And setting the terms.
So they will operate the building and rent to kitchen.
Yeah, that makes
vendors.
sense. I guess the question is like, is there gonna be some sort of written language around pricing to make sure it's affordable and like what that looks like?
There's been some initial conversation with the council. The size of the kitchens are pretty small and it's counter service, so that does build in some affordability. As we continue with moving forward with a master operator and lease negotiations, we'll get further direction.
Cool.
Yeah, I think one way or the other, there's a difference between Denver affordable and Aspen affordable when it comes to our workforce and what we are able to really obtain and then still have the selection of different providers. I myself was nervous about 5 kitchens, and I've been convinced that this is the kind of magic number so that there's a lot of variety in food choices. They will be competitive with each other. So, you know, thinking about keeping their menus affordable, as well as if one goes out for some reason, you still have 4 other options. So, but thank you. Those are very thoughtful questions and comments.
Thank you so much. Yeah, appreciate it.
Is there any other additional public comment online or in the audience? Okay. There being none, I will close the public comment section. And I don't know, I don't think we have to pop the proposed motion back up there, but it was so handy when it was there. Is there a motion, and since I moved the agenda around, I got a little crazy. Is there a motion to approve ordinance number 6, series of 2025, Armory Hall and Connor Memorial Park redevelopment project, major public project, planned development amendment, certificate of appropriateness for a major development and related reviews?
So moved.
Is there-
Seconded.
Moved and seconded.
Would love an opportunity for a few comments.
Oh, we absolutely will have comments. And I'm going to start with Bill, and then Sam, you'll be up next, just so you have a moment to think about it. Go ahead, Bill.
Thanks. This deserves. I've never done that before up here, but thank you so much to the staff, to the applicant team, to members of our community like Richard and Susan who have been alongside us for this whole journey. This is literally something that I've dreamed about. I campaigned on the sort of vision of this food hall focused conversion of this building to public use. I think that this is so deeply important to the future of Aspen's community fabric, and as a third space, a gathering space, a community hub. I'm just so pleased with where we are today and how this has turned out. I'm also super grateful and appreciative to members of HPC that have contributed sort of their feedback into making this something that respects the history of this building and our community and creates the best possible outcome. I listened very carefully and weighed my feedback based on what they said, and I think that we've come to a great compromise. I'm so excited for this to continue to move forward. I'm pleased with the pace that it's moved forward. I can't wait to eat a bowl of noodles, a burger, have a beer in this building. I'm just totally delighted and excited and deeply appreciative for everyone's efforts. Super supportive of where we're at. Thank you.
Thank you. Sam, would you like to make some comments?
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm just so excited as well. I echo so many of Bill's comments, the standing ovation. I'd be there doing the same thing. I did it from afar. It's just so special, and to think about the ribbon cutting on this and the generations to come that get to enjoy this incredible community asset in such a special place. The vision that is really coming to life here is just so incredible, and I can't wait till they break ground on it, and I can't wait till it opens and the community can use this for generations to come. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Sam. Christine?
Yeah, you both said it very well, but I can't believe it's been 10 years. I get the benefit of coming in at the end of this project, even though I was there for some of those early input sessions in the Armory building. It's come a really long way. I think we're all so delighted with the progress that's been made, the compromises to getting to this really amazing product. We talk a lot about community space, and I really believe this is going to significantly add to the vibrancy of our community for all ages, all demographics, and I'm thrilled to support it tonight.
Yeah. Thank you, Christine. John?
I want to echo everything that's been said already up here tonight. It's been a pleasure to have been part of a project that seems to have moved along quite a bit quicker than anything else I've worked on or been part of. I want to give a special shout out to Todd Kennedy and CCY. I think this design is, we started out with a pretty good one, and it's gotten exponentially better every step of the way. I'm really proud of the way the design sits right now. I also want to thank HPC for working with us, and I hope our compromises are acceptable to everyone in the community. This is a killer project. I'm really also very happy to see it move to completion. Thanks. And thanks, Jen. I want to shout out to Jen Phelan, too. She worked really hard on this.
Yeah, very much so. I think everyone's comments have been really well heartfelt and accurate. And so I'm just going to say ditto, 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 ditto for all four of you. I will say, readaptive use of an older building always will contain some trade-offs. And we're seeing trade-offs in our society when it's even not an ancient or historic building, when people are looking at materials that are fire resistant in a way that just didn't matter 20 years ago. There's just times change. There was never an ADA standard before. And so then you think about how do we accommodate ADA? And those sort of things should be done. I will really thank the HPC for their comments. I think they have taken a building that, if it was a new building, it would have been, no real thought about it. But as a historic building, that advice and that guidance has been really important. And I think it's created a much more attractive and respectful building from your advice and your teammates and your volunteers. So we really appreciate that. And I do want to kind of do a little bit of a explainer in that it has been, I think, 10 years since the vote, and I think that was 3 mayors ago, at least. I think that might have been during Steve Skadron's time. And there was so much controversy over this new building that it took a while before this broke ground. And so it's been a little bit of moving things from one location to another to the next. So not to say any reason why it's taken so long or anything, but this building, I think, has been open a little over 3 years, And so it took that ability to move all of the city functions out and over, I think, before the real serious design work began. And what has been accomplished in a short time is really significant and meaningful. And I was on council when we were kind of inching into this along with other projects. So Jen and Ben and your staff and Parks have just done a tremendous job bringing this forward for us. So I'll just say thank you. And
Rachel, can I have one more
yeah,
little
go ahead.
thing, if you don't mind? Thanks. Question/comment. I really liked Michael's suggestion about the fire pit and the s'mores concept, and similar to what Snowmass is doing. And Todd mentioned that this is going to be an all-electric building. So my question now is, do you need anything different in the approval tonight? Any sort of exclusion or condition or something that would allow you to pursue that idea?
Is there natural gas to the building now?
There must be today.
There is currently. I think it's a topic that we've, I think certainly are supportive of the direction of the building to be all electric. I do think moving forward, I don't know that there's going to be a prohibition of natural gas in the city of Aspen anytime soon, just because of the reality of our circumstance. And so I do think, depending on the design of that, the intentions of that, it's a bit of an itchy thing, but I think we could do it. I think it would be included in the provisions that gave some administrative flexibility, depending.
So nothing we need to do tonight to be.
I don't think so. I don't think so, and I think it's a topic that, depending on how it would manifest, if it were to be a decision that couldn't be handled during building permit review or through HPC staff and monitor, I do think that we could use our typical administrative PD amendment approval, or, sort of run it through an evaluation that way. I don't see it as a huge issue, should that be a desire to sort of implement that.
Thanks. Well, certainly a desire from my end for it to be explored and discussed and conceptualized. So.
Yeah, I would participate in that discussion, but I would have concerns given climate change, which is kind of worsening on us by the day. And particularly, I recall speaking with some people, I think it was in Salt Lake, when they were getting the Olympics, and they were so excited. They said, we lit this Olympic basin because we've been awarded this, and it's only going to be X many years away. And then they said they turned it off like about 3 months later because they didn't realize how expensive it would be. And so I want to keep track of things like that. But I appreciate, and there may be other ways that people can toast their marshmallows in the future with a little electricity. We all love fire, but even right now we're on a fire ban. You couldn't even be up at a campground and open a fire. So that's a climate change-driven reality for us. But I appreciate that, and I should say my husband always thought that there should be a golf simulator on the second floor, and that you would get a lot of people in the winter, and you think about the young junior golf, and they'd come in. But I'll leave that to the professionals to sort out.
Batting cage.
Batting cage. Anyhow, we do have a motion and a second, is that correct? Okay. Mike, would you call the roll, please?
Counselor Benedetti?
Yes.
Counselor Doyle?
Yes.
Counselor Guth?
Yes.
Counselor Rose?
Yes.
Mayor Richards?
Yes. And thank you all. The motion has passed. Council continues its business. We are now going to go into an executive session. Sorry, we can't do congratulations all around. And I will let the city attorney introduce the reasons for why we're going into executive. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. You want me to give it a minute? Mayor and council, staff is requesting an executive session tonight. Pursuant to Colorado Revised Statute, Section 24-6-402 Sub 4, Sub A, we would like to speak to council, about 4B, conferences with an attorney for the local public body for purposes of receiving legal advice on specific legal questions. Subsection 4E, determining positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiations, developing strategy for negotiations, and instructing negotiators. The specific items of discussion involve the following: ACRA lease negotiations, discussion of potential litigation involving property known as Lot F1 Stage Road PUD subdivision, and instructions to negotiators, lease for property located at 455 Rio Grande Place, Aspen, Colorado. This meeting will be recorded, and the recording of the executive session will be maintained by the clerk for not less than 90 days. The executive session will be convened in electric pass. My understanding is council will not reconvene in city council chambers to adjourn. That will take place in electric pass. And so the grassroots recording, I think, will stop now.
All right, we've all heard the reasons for going into executive session. Is there a motion to do so according to the attorney's citation?
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded. Would you call the roll, please?
Counselor Benedetti?
Yes.
Counselor Doyle?
Yes.
Counselor Guth?
Yes.
Counselor Rose?
Yes.
Mayor Richards?
Yes, thank you. Let me ask, is we going to have a Zoom in for Sam in executive? So you guys have already talked to him about how to get into that meeting.
You should have an invitation, Councilmember Rose.
I do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. We will not probably be fully convened for another 8 or 10 minutes down there as we all settle, but we'll see you or hear from you in the next room. Thank you, Sam.
Thanks,